Hello, you're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 131 for January 14th, 2026. It's our Game of the Year award show for 2025. So this is a special episode. If you've never heard it before, we are looking back at the year 2025 and we are giving out awards to selected games. So we have a lot of different categories, everything from most disappointing game to most aesthetically pleasing to chaos news of the year to adaptation of the year. So we're going to have a lot of fun. This is always, to me, one of the most fun episodes to record all year. I'm Justin Young. Joining me as always are Christina Ivey and Mario Sanders. How are the two of you doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, no normal game news or coverage or anything this week. This is all about the game of the year. As you are listening to this, we are recording it. It will, when you are listening to it, it will be going up on the website as part of our Game of the Year festivities. That's at salukigames.com. You can check there. There will be multiple podcast episodes, but in addition, we will have our Game of the Year list from multiple different people, not only those on this podcast, but people from this podcast in the past, and also community members around Southern Illinois University who have contributed, graduate students, faculty who have contributed lists of their own. So we do encourage you, check out salukigames.com. Those are always a lot of fun. I always learn a lot from those because people talk about games that sometimes, certainly I didn't get a chance to play, but sometimes I never even heard of. And so it's always an enlightening experience. So listen to this and then check out salukigames.com for more of that. But we're going to jump right on into the awards. And our first award, I think this is going to be a pretty easy one for us to decide. Our category is Best Mobile Game for 2025. And well, Christina, would you like to read our nominees for this category?
Yeah, so the nominees are, Is This Seat Taken? And that's it.
Yeah, so I think we all said we played mobile games this year, but like probably not ones that were actually released in 2025.
Yeah,
so
it's the for me, it's the same old that I've been playing for like the last 3 years, so...
So we did struggle a little to come up with new nominations explicitly for this year, but Mario, I think you are the one who originally nominated this. Do you want to say something about it?
Sure. I think Is This Seat Taken is a really fun little puzzle game. I think it does a good job in like scaling up the difficulty as you go on. It's not a where it doesn't, I don't know, you're not getting like super frustrated, but it definitely provides like a decent challenge. The style of the game, for people who aren't familiar, is, I'm sure there's a way that you could describe, or like there's a category of this style of puzzle.
It's like those logic puzzles.
Yeah.
It's like this person wants to sit near a window and this person doesn't want to sit next to Rick.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you are essentially making a seating chart for a room, and each character has their requirements of this person, like Justin said, wants to sit next to a window, or this person wants to talk to somebody, or this person doesn't want to sit next to, doesn't like strong odors, and there's another person that's wearing perfume or cologne or something, and so like those people can't sit next to each other. And so like I said, as the game goes on, there are definitely some puzzles where it gets pretty tricky, but it's a good time, and it's one that I would certainly recommend to people if they like those style of logic puzzles. Or I think the levels, none of them are so long that if you're waiting for an appointment, or you're just need 20 minutes to do something before going to bed, I think this is a really good game for that.
Yeah, I played a little bit of this. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I would just add that it has a really kind of cute art style to it that I think makes it stand out. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of logic games that you can play, but I think that art style goes a long way. I also think the way that it delivers the instructions, the like sort of criteria that you have to meet for your seating arrangement and everything, is really simplified in a way that makes it a very accessible game.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've never played one of these, or you've done these sort of logic puzzles in the past and been sort of intimidated or overwhelmed by them, this one is really accessible.
Yeah, this is a game I feel like you could give to just about anybody. I do think it probably plays better on an iPad than an iPhone.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I will also say, and I think I've mentioned it on this podcast before, it features maybe the most evil character in video games history. I guess I will give you a slight spoiler. There's one where you have to make a seating chart for a movie theater, and this person wants to sit in the middle of the room while also wanting to look at their phone.
I did that puzzle, and I hated that person.
You know,
because I hate that person in real life.
I mean, I think I literally wrote this on my Game of the Year write-up. I mean, video game antagonists strive for that level of depravity, right?
Of someone you just despise at a very like core level, like deep down, you're like, this person is truly evil.
You are the worst person, and there are going to be moments where you're doing this, where you're looking like, I'm sorry, you can't get everything that you want.
And that's the first person that I'd be like, you go sit in the bathroom. you enjoy the movie from like the lobby.
I'm sorry, you actually are no longer allowed to watch the film.
Right.
This is also available on, I know, at least Steam. I believe some other places as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's probably on like Switch or PlayStation as well. I don't know. It might be a little tougher to play with that with a control stick rather than like the mouse or like being able to touch a screen on your phone. But yeah, it's pretty widely available. And I don't think it's any more than maybe $8. It's pretty cheap as well.
Yeah, so strong recommendation for our best mobile game of the year, which is This Seat Taken? All right, our next category, that one was simple enough. It'll get a little bit more challenging. Our next category is Best Chillaxing Game, which that is a nonsense word, but it is our best game to sort of chill and relax while playing. So anyways, Mario, would you mind reading our nominees?
Sure. So the nominees for Best Chillaxing Game are Sectori, Ball X Pit, Mario Kart World, and Luminous Arise.
All right. Anybody have any thoughts on any of these nominees?
I only played 2 of these, Ball X Pit and Mario Kart World. Mario Kart World was, I mean, it's relaxing in the same way that all Mario Kart games are relaxing. Like, if I need to just turn off my brain, I can put it on, and yeah. Ball X Pit was kind of cool. I don't know if chillaxing is the word I would use to describe it, but I definitely could turn my brain off. So maybe that does work.
How deep into spoilers are we allowed to get with some of these games?
Well, I think we should just warn the audience that there is in order to talk about some of these games, we're going to have to spoil some things. We're going to do our best not to intentionally spoil things, but like, just understand we're going to have to talk about some key aspects and moments of these games.
I feel like if we're talking about like what makes something this for
yeah.
So I mean, I think the very funny argument for Ball X Pit is that
I know where you're going with
the
this.
game literally just plays itself at a certain point.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason this game is a consideration at all for this, right?
For sure.
Is because this game, when you get to the later parts, really allows you to play it however you want, right? You can play it where it very much plays itself. You can do it as a turn-based game. Like, it really, if you see the first level of this game, you might go, how is this relaxing at all? And then when you get to those later levels, you're like, well, it can be, depending on how much you want to check out of this game. But yeah.
And I guess I if I can really quickly, just because Christina already brought them up, Also, the only two I played were Ball X Pit and Mario Kart World. And I would say I agree with Christina on Mario Kart World. I might actually put this one slightly more in the chillaxing because of that open world aspect.
Yeah.
You don't have to even race. Like, you can just drive around and do your own thing.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
in some ways, I think of Mario Kart games, this might be the most chillaxing.
I agree with that. I think the fact that it does have that sort of open world mode where you can kind of just do what you want and you can just drive around and explore the Mushroom Kingdom, right?
Right.
Makes it a little bit more relaxing in that way. I would also say that, even the way those levels are designed, they're so much wider. I feel like I felt much less like claustrophobic as you feel in some of the previous Mario Kart games where the levels are so tight. There's like enough space for 2 or 3 cars to go by. For this, you're very rarely getting stuck in a situation where you can't get around somebody or you feel
Getting
like you're
bumped off or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and talk about the other two since I'm the only one who's played those. Sectori is kind of a weird nomination here because that is very much a Geometry Wars, so it's kind of chaotic dual stick shooter. The only reason I nominated it for this and included it here is because when you enter that fugue state, which you have to enter in order to progress very far in this game, it's almost like a meditative state while playing the game. You sort of like your brain stops functioning. You're just reacting. And I think there's something relaxing about games like that if you can get to that point in them, right? Which is often difficult and sometimes incredibly frustrating in order to do. Luminous Arise, I feel like is, this is from the same people who did, what is the name of the Tetris one? Tetris Effect, yeah. I can never remember the name of that. So this is the same people who did Tetris Effect. It is very, very similar to Tetris Effect in that it is all about sort of vibing while you're playing this puzzle game. It is, you can play it in VR. It's about this like sort of trippy musical visual experience kind of all at the same time. I don't do drugs, but if I did drugs, I would play this game while doing drugs. And so I feel like, to me, this is sort of like...
that feels like the definition of chillaxing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest strike against this is it is, in a lot of ways, very similar to Tetris Effect. However, the people who made Tetris Effect made Luminous first. And really, Tetris Effect is borrowing from Luminous. And this is sort of kind of taking that and really expanding it. But I think Sectori can get cut because, again, I think you have to be in that fugue state for that to really make any sense. And I don't think, at least for the first few hours you play that game, you will not be very relaxed playing it.
Can I actually add a game as a nominee? So, and I'm thinking about it sort of not necessarily similar to what you're saying with Sectori, but I'd like to add Mega Bonk to this.
Sure.
It is, Mega Bonk is effectively 3D Vampire Survivors. And I think that those kinds of games, I guess I want to add this game because this became the game where it's like, you know what, I have been working on this paper or I'm working on prelims and I'm just need 30 minutes to kind of just chill and take my mind off of those things. And I think of a lot of those like roguelikes that came out this year, that was the one that I tended to default to.
Yeah, and I think often we call these podcast games, right?
Sure, absolutely.
They're the game that you kind of turn your brain off and you're playing them while listening to something else, right? A podcast or
watching a YouTube video.
I can definitely understand that one in there. Okay, well, we took one off and added one, so we're back to 4 nominees. I think Ball X Pit is a clever nomination for this, but I don't think it probably fits very well with the rest of these.
Yeah, there are enough moments where that game does get stressful that
Yeah.
I would be good cutting it as well.
I think it's the same problem with Sectori. You have to play a lot of that game before it gets relaxing.
Sure.
That leaves Mega Bonk, Mario Kart World, and Luminous Arise.
I didn't realize Luminous Arise was by the same people that did Tetris Effect, and if it's similar, like that's a game that was the first game that I got when I got the VR set, because I was like, I know that I can just sit here and, again, trippy without doing drugs, and just sit there. So if it's similar, like that makes sense.
Or extra trippy if you do drugs.
Yeah. I don't judge. Do you?
I was going to potentially, I know I just added it, so it makes sense, but I think I might cut Mario Kart World.
Oh.
Okay.
I think just because, one, I don't know if any of us really used it as that chillaxing type of game, right? Like, I think I enjoyed the open world aspect the most of the three of us.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really one that I returned to all that much to begin with.
The only way that I've played it has been visiting people over the holidays and them being like, oh, I just got a Switch too. Do you want to play Mario Kart? So,
yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand cutting that one. I mean, I do think that's a fairly relaxing game in the sort of like grand tradition of a lot of Nintendo games, but I can certainly understand cutting that. Yeah. All right. Well, that gives us our two finalists. So we have Luminous Arise and Mega Bonk.
I think we're good putting Mega Bonk as second and Luminous as our chillaxing winner. I don't know if anybody will argue with that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm good with that.
I'm good with that. All right. So for best chillaxing game, your winner is Luminous Arise with your runner-up Mega Bonk. All right. Next category is most disappointing game. So just a little clarification on this. We really don't like being kind of chitty towards games on here. So this category is not necessarily worst game. So some of the games that we nominate are games we actually like, but
some of these might end up on people's top 10 lists.
Yeah, absolutely. But the reason they are on here is because there's something about them, and it may have been the hype leading up to release or a particular part of the game that we found disappointing. Right. So oftentimes people, I think, look at this and go, oh, that's their worst game of the year. And it's like, no, this is not the worst game of the year. Disappointing, right? So we're just calling that out. I'll go ahead and read the nominees for this. Our nominees are Mario Kart World, Shadow Labyrinth, Bollock's Pit, Recreation, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. All right. Anybody have thoughts on these?
So I'll talk about Bollock's Pit a little bit. While I think that there are a lot of things that are very cool as you continue to unlock it, it's one of those things where for that game, it's like a bell curve where it's like the beginning, it's like, okay, this is fine. And then I feel like it hits its peak maybe like halfway through. Mm-hmm. And then once you start reaching the end, I was like, well, okay, I don't know if it was one of those things where I felt like that decline in enjoyment happened faster than I wanted it to. Yeah, it's like that sort of rise in like, oh, this is getting better and better. Like I don't feel like it sustained that for me very long.
It's like the Fast and Furious films.
Sure.
It sort of peaked with Tokyo Drift, and then it was all downhill.
Oh, I mean, so true.
I had a student the other day who told me he loved the Fast and Furious films. And I said, what do you think of Tokyo Drift? He said, oh, I've never seen it.
What?
I was like, what?
I mean, congrats to that student for still having the best one to watch.
I think Mario Kart World, I'm assuming, I didn't put this one on here, but my disappointment with that is that being what gets launched with the Switch 2. I don't know. I don't know if y'all feel that way, but I was like, you have this that's supposed to be so much better in so many different ways than Switch 1. Why are you releasing a Mario Kart game with it? I don't know.
I get that. I mean, I think as the launch game, right, and the pack-in game, that game, well, I think that game is very good looking, and it has those like long distant vistas. You know, you go up over a hill, you can see very far down the island.
Right.
You compare that to Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Right.
Right. And Donkey Kong Bonanza is the game that sort of, to me, justifies the Switch 2. Right? Like, oh, this is something you could not have done on the original Switch. And I think Mario Kart World doesn't do that as well, even though I think it is a game you couldn't do on the original Switch.
Right.
It doesn't sell that as hard
Right.
as Donkey Kong or, you know, conceivably some other title might be able to.
Right.
I think for me, with Mario Kart, what was particularly disappointing about it, I don't think that's a bad game.
Right.
But I think that's a game that when I was playing it and leading up to it, and this is partly my fault, but I kept thinking there's got to be more to this game. Like you've created this open world and everything. There's got to be something more going on in this open world. And then you get the game and there's just nothing for the most part in that open world. I mean, there are some things you can do, but it feels like such a wasted opportunity. And I realize there's always the chance they'll go and add in, you know, additional courses and DLC in there. But there's so much empty space in that game without like necessarily the fun, interesting things that you want there to be to discover.
Right.
As part of it.
It's particularly disappointing that they haven't really done anything more with it since it released.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of adding to that or adding, you know, even one of those, you know, something where it's like, oh, this new character arrived and they're creating havoc in the world and, you know, you're chasing them around. Like to something beyond just like the conventional races, right? Where it's like, here is something for you to encourage you to do more of that exploration of the world beyond just the exclamation point blocks or whatever.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. I'll talk about Shadow Labyrinth. Shadow Labyrinth is the Pac-Man Metroidvania that they came out with this year. And that is, again, like, not a terrible game. I just think you tell me you're making a Metroidvania Pac-Man. That's the most insane idea that you can pitch, or just about. And then that game just never 100% comes together in the way that you want it to.
Yeah.
And it feels like if you're going to take an old property like that and you're going to try to reinvent it, then, you know, it's sort of, I feel the sort of same way like remaking movies, right? If you're going to take an old movie and remake it today, then you've got to do something kind of radically different with it, or else what's the point? That film's already a classic. Pac-Man's already a classic. If you're going to take Pac-Man and try to rejuvenate Pac-Man in a new genre, then you have to do something really special with it. And for me, that game never... it's just never special enough.
Yeah.
It just feels like, you know, it feels like, it's fine. It's not a terrible game, but not a great game either. And at least when they were showing that original trailer, I remember when they revealed that Pac-Man was part of it, like it sort of just blew my mind. Like, what in the world are they doing with this game? I don't know that anybody else played Recreation or Metroid Prime. I'll talk about those both briefly. Recreation is about 70% of an amazing game. That amazing game being
the Burnout one.
Yeah, okay. that amazing game being Burnout Paradise. It's about 70% of the way to Burnout Paradise. Burnout Paradise, to me, is one of the best games ever made. and Recreation is about 70% of the way there, and the fact that it's not all the way there is what makes that game incredibly disappointing. Like, somebody tells you they're doing a follow-up to that, you really want them to knock it out of the park, and it's just not entirely there. And then Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is the best game you'll play this year that is not the game that anyone wanted. Everybody wanted that game to be Metroid Prime 1 Part 2. And that is not the game they made. Instead, they made basically Ocarina of Prime. Like, that is, it so much feels like Ocarina of Time, in that there's this big open world in the middle that's the desert, and then there's these areas you go off and you're kind of within those areas, but it is not, it has Metroidvania qualities, just like any Zelda game does, but it feels far more like a Zelda game than it feels like a Metroid game. And I will say I've not finished the game. I know lots of people really don't like the ending to the game, but I can't judge that. But I will say I think that game is disappointing because it is not the game that anyone wanted.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about with this category. Games can be good, but disappointing in that they're not what people want.
Yeah.
Right? I think we can cut Shadow Labyrinth.
Okay.
Because I just think expectations were not super high for that game to begin with.
And it is doing that thing that you say, right? Like taking a classic and going in like a radically different direction with it.
Sure.
Maybe it didn't fully get across the line, but like I think some recognition and like appreciation for the attempt, goes into it. And so yeah.
I don't. Bollock's Pit, I agree with everything you say about it, Mario. And the other thing I would say about Bollock's Pit is when you first play Bollock's Pit, the initial reaction to the first level is, this is really cool. And then it immediately throws you into the base building part of the game, and you're like, son of a bitch. You're like, what?
This immediately got less cool.
And like, I've rarely had a reaction to a game in recent memory that was so
Whiplash,
divided.
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Whiplash is a good way to explain it. And that is incredibly disappointing because like that part of the game never gets good. Like it never gets good.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the other part of the game only gets better, as you said. Like it, until it hits that peak, and it kind of does hit a peak at some point. But like it actually gets significantly better, and it already starts off pretty good.
That is true.
And that second part of it is just such a train wreck. It does get, I guess, slightly more bearable, but it never gets good. Having said all of that, though, I don't know if Bollock's Pit really belongs on as one of our winners.
I think that's pretty fair compared to, a little indie project compared to Mario Kart World.
Exactly. Yeah.
It would feel pretty harsh saying that that's more disappointing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and I think particularly because Bollock's Pit is trying something with that second half of the game.
Sure.
And it's failing at it, but it's trying
I
something.
think, along the same lines of that of Shadow Labyrinth, right? Like, I appreciate the attempt. It's not for me, that part of the game, but I appreciate what they're trying to do.
Right.
So
I think you said
good-cutting it.
you had a friend who got really into that part, like got into min-maxing that part.
I have a friend who loves base building. I don't know if he ever ended up playing Bollock's Pit, but when we told him about that, he's like, that was the part that he was excited about.
Yeah. I would make a strong argument for Recreation because that was a studio that came out of the developers of Burnout. And they have worked smaller projects building up to this to make the the successor, the spiritual successor to Burnout Paradise, and it didn't make it all the way. And that studio they have not been shut down yet, but it looks like they're headed for being shut down. And it looks like this is the end of the road for them.
Yeah.
And to get that close to like the game that everybody wants and not quite hit it is a real huge disappointment.
That seems pretty fair.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And I might then put up, I mean, maybe it's a little odd that both of them would be racing games, but I might put Mario Kart World as number 2.
Yeah.
But I think, I guess I'll put it up to y'all. I don't know if it's fair that the disappointment comes maybe not necessarily from the game, but like the context that surrounds it of it being the launch game and of them not doing anything more with
fair.
it DLC wise. Like, I think that that's more disappointing than the actual game itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I do think that's fair because they had the opportunity to control those expectations.
Sure.
Right?
That's a decision they made.
And I feel like that Nintendo, particularly with this game, right, they made the pitch that this is an $80 game.
Yeah.
They priced this game at $80. They said there's so much content in here.
Right.
This is worth $80. And, and we know that part of that was to get people to go ahead and buy the bundle because you're saving $30 by buying the bundle. And I feel like they had the opportunity to control expectations for that game in a way that I feel like with Metroid Prime, you have less of a chance because without just saying, hey, this game is not exactly what you think it is. This is like different. We've, changed the way that you interact with the world through a hub and that sort of thing. Whereas this one, I feel like, that $80 price tag and telling us, oh, it's because there's so much content. And then people get in, they're like, well, yeah, this is pretty good.
Where is the content?
Yeah, right.
But like you're charging us an extra $10 and there doesn't seem to be an extra $10 worth of content in here.
Yeah. It's one of those things that it's like getting it at $50 in the bundle. If it were normally $50, I'd be like, yeah, that seems totally reasonable. But if you were to have bought this at that $80 price point, that would certainly make me more disappointed.
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't, and this is, a me thing, like I almost don't even consider that because I didn't buy it separately. Like because it came in the bundle, it was like, that's not part of the disappointment for me, but I do think that's very fair.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'd be up for putting Mario Kart World at number 2. Is that
2,
what
yeah.
you're saying you're thinking Recreation 1?
I don't know. How do the two of you feel?
That sounds fair to me.
I didn't play Recreation, so I can't speak on it. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm good leaving it up to you. Either order is fine with me.
I think both of these are good games. I will say Recreation launched at a lower price tag. Like I think that game launched at $40
Wow.
I don't think it could have launched at a higher price tag.
than 80. I mean, but like when you think that game launched at half the price,
We'll put
You know.
it this way: would 2 Recreations be equal to 1 Mario Kart World?
oh, that makes it a much
How
more
does the
difficult
how does
question.
the calculus work?
Yeah, like I don't know. I think Recreation is more disappointing to me because of the possibility
Sure,
of
Yeah.
what that game could be.
that's fair.
I think Mario Kart is maybe more practically disappointing to a larger number of people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Part of me sort of hates to give this award to Recreation because I feel like people will misinterpret it as this is a bad game.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Mhm.
It's just not the game we want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't feel like fans, when I say we, it's not the
Yeah,
game
yeah.
fans want it to be.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. And I think I get what you're saying because I think it's what I was just saying about Bollock's Pit is like, while I think we know the intention behind best disappointing game,
Right.
it still feels a little harsh. in
Yeah.
some ways, and giving it to this smaller studio as compared to
Yeah.
the Goliath that is
Especially
Nintendo.
when they're on the way out potentially.
Yeah.
I will also say they have done multiple major updates to this game since its release. I believe the game came out in maybe October, early November, and they have done major updates to it, adding additional features, adding more content. Last they did, one of the big complaints was that there wasn't a major city, and the last update that I saw and played, they were like in the process of building out a major city. So I feel like now, in fairness, Mario Kart could add free DLC sometime, right? But that game launched in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say we put Mario Kart at number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
I think that's fair.
Because, I mean, to me, that's the recreation people, like, they're really trying,
Yeah.
right? And it might not still ever get to become that game.
Mostly because the studio might be shut
Yeah,
down before it gets
but,
the
like,
chance.
I think it's worth recognizing they're giving it all they
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. All right. Next is best moment in a game. Mario, would you like to read this? And this is just to
Be here
clarify.
for 10 minutes reading all these.
But just to clarify for people, this is like a singular moment in a game that like really stands out to us. So Mario.
Sure. So, best moment in a game, the nominees are Flambe's cover of Meredith Brooks' Bitch, the first from Dispatch, the first attack after getting painted power from Clair Obscure Expedition 33, getting to hear Monaco's theme the second time from Clair Obscure Expedition 33, Huggin' Molly's Lair from South of Midnight, surfing a missile from Shinobi Art of Vengeance, unlocking later characters from Ball X Pit, unlocking Rainbow Road from Mario Kart World, and Fred's from Look Outside.
All right, thanks. I will go ahead and say we should probably cut Unlocking Rainbow Road from Mario Kart World.
Yeah.
But in a game that we just won, gave most disappointing, I will say that is a really cool moment in that game. And it was a moment I was like, man, if this game had more moments like this,
Yeah.
like I would be much happier with this game. That's a super cool moment in it. But I think it's not going to make our winners.
I also think that's fair.
Do we feel similarly about unlocking later characters in Bollock's Pit? Since, like, obviously it didn't win disappointing game, but
I think my reason for cutting that is I don't know if there's a singular moment that I attach to it. I think generally like it is cool, but there's not like I don't know if there's like this one moment in the game or this one character. I think that generally the way that they diversify those characters is cool, but I don't know if I can attach a singular. So I would be okay cutting it for that reason. I don't know if Justin, you feel differently.
No, I think that moment of realizing, oh, this game is going places with these characters.
I think that's very fair.
Like it is doing something far more interesting with these characters than I anticipated when I unlocked the first few characters, right? And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of neat. There's different characters. And then you get to those later ones and you're like, oh, they're like turning this entire game on its head with some of these characters.
The turn-based one, I think, is like, that is the one where I was like, because you read that description, you're like, what does that even mean?
Right, yeah.
And then you play it like, okay. And so, like, they do break the convention of, like, your typical breakout style brick breaker type of game. And so, yeah, like, I do very much agree that is one of the more exciting parts of the game for sure.
And even when you start being able to like choose two characters and team up characters together, like there are multiple ways that game, there's one character that flips it. And so you're shooting from behind the enemies that are sort of dropping down on you. And all of that, when that starts happening, you're like, oh, like this is a lot cooler of a game than I realized. And I think that's a really cool moment. I don't know that it makes, because there's some really great moments, but I do think that's a super cool moment. I think you're right that maybe the nebulous quality of it, because like we're actually talking about multiple moments, sort of.
Well,
and people might react differently to different ones.
Right.
well, then let's hold it for a little bit because I'm going to put up a couple more that we can be okay cutting.
Okay.
I'd be okay cutting. I would be okay cutting both of the Expedition 33 nominees.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I put both of these on there. I think that both of these are just some of the highlights of the game. So Painted Power is one of the abilities that you get maybe 2/3 of the way through the game that essentially uncaps the damage that you can do. So before you get Painted Power, your character, all the characters are capped at doing 9,999 damage. And once you get Painted Power, it can surpass that. And so getting to see that number, the dopamine hits because number get big. And so, you do,
It's very much playing with like the traditional Square role-playing games, because they usually were capped at that's the most damage you can do. So it's kind of playing off that.
I think that the most I ever did in one attack was like over 4 million damage. And so it's like, that's a pretty awesome feeling to get to see that moment. I don't know if it's the best moment, because honestly, getting to hear Monaco's theme the second time is a better moment. So for this one, Monaco is one of the characters in the game. He becomes part of your party.
So do we want to...
I'm okay cutting
Painted Power.
Painted Power, yeah. Monaco joins your party, and the first thing you do is you fight him, and his theme song is... It's peak. It is such a good song. Like, you could just stick on that fight and that song could loop, and I wouldn't judge you for you stayed there for 10 minutes, you stayed there for an hour and a half. I wouldn't blame you. And it's one of those moments where I feel like games do this. You realize, man, that's a song that's way too good for them to only use once. But we'll
be talking about another one of those in a few moments.
You know that they're probably only going to use it once. And then this is why I really got Game of the Year from every outlet ever, is the developers had the knowledge of saying, what if we shoehorned away completely unnecessary to let you get
really great song.
to let you hear the song again. And so that moment, yeah, it's one of the best moments of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not fan service, but it's realizing what you have.
Yeah.
Right? Like it is the Duffer Brothers deciding not to kill off Steve in the first season of Stranger Things, realizing like, oh no, we have created in this like douche character that we actually created one of our best characters.
Yeah.
Like, and I think you're absolutely right. It is realizing, oh wait, we created something. We've got to figure out a way to use this. Yeah.
So like I said, I'm up for cutting both of those. I did want to just have a moment to get to speak about both of them.
Well, let's keep the second one for now. I'll talk about Surfing a Missile and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. That game is just really cool all the way through, and the fact that in this moment you are fleeing a helicopter that's attacking you and it's shooting missiles and the city is exploding and you're like having to like do all this platforming and jump and dodge in the air and then like use your grappling hook and like doing all these like maneuvers, like all your platforming skills up to that point in the game are at use. And then as you are escaping the very end part, you like leap as they fire a missile and you land on the missile and you are surfing that missile through the air as you're escaping. And it's just like, this is peak 16-bit stupidity brought back in a modern game. And it's a super cool game. And that moment is like sort of emblematic of how super cool and in a very dumb way that game is. And very self-aware, right? Like when they do that, they're very self-aware of what they're doing. This isn't, hey, like we are mindless putting this in here. They know that the audience knows this is like goofy and as a way to top it all off. I think that's super cool. I don't think it I don't think it hangs with some of the rest
Sure.
of these.
That's fair.
But I did want to call it out. So we'll take it off.
And then similarly, I will also, I'm okay cutting Hug and Molly's Lair. I also put this one on here. I think this is one of the best moments of South of Midnight.
For sure.
The like getting into the lair and the music that plays. Hug and Molly's theme is very good.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of really good music in South of Midnight.
Well, and then the buildup of that character is just...
Because up to that point, you've heard all of these things about Hug and Molly, and the reveal of Hug and Molly, and then how that character, how you come to understand that character as you progress through the lair. I think it's a high point of that game that, as I've talked about already, I think South of Midnight is one of those games that I don't know if I would enthusiastically recommend people play it, but I do think there's a lot about that game that people should look into, and Hug and Molly's Lair is one of them.
I was talking to Leah about like games with different narratives and stuff, and that was one. I was like, this is one from this year that the narrative was so good, and I showed her I explained what was happening. I showed her the trailer, and when Hugging Molly comes out, she audibly went, "Oh!" And so it's definitely one of those moments that was pretty powerful, even if you're not immersed in the context of the game. Like it's that cool of a moment.
I feel like South of Midnight is one of those games that's going to have a player reevaluation in the next 5 years.
Sure.
I hope so.
Like people are going to go back and play that game. I feel like it sort of got lost in the milieu of all the games coming out this year, and I feel like that game may get more of a shine over time. It may get more appreciated.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things. Like, if the biggest criticism I have of it is that it's maybe a little cookie cutter, that's not bad.
No.
Right?
But it's cookie cutter in the gameplay.
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
Everything surrounding it's actually very interesting.
Yes, 100%.
I didn't play Look Outside, so I don't know what this the Fred's part is in reference to.
Okay, so Fred's is one of the weirdest moments in a game this year. So Look Outside is a game where there has been some sort of horror, some sort of eldritch horror has occurred in the world, and anybody who looks outside the apartment building is turned into a hideous monster.
Oh, okay.
So you cannot look out the windows.
It's like a survival horror RPG game.
Yeah. It's got some Earthbound sort of qualities to it and everything. But anyways, so at one point you go into this one apartment and you meet a character named Fred who says, there are monsters who are impersonating me. You have to kill them. And so you go into the next room and there's Fred, and Fred says, there are monsters who are impersonating me. You have to kill them for me. And you go into a series of rooms, and everyone in the room is calling themselves Fred and telling you that everybody else is actually like the monster. And it is like what is one of those great moments in a game where it starts to mess with your head as the player.
Yeah.
Right? Like what your expectations are, and there's no initial easy way to tell who is lying to you and everything in the game. And it's really kind of creepy, right? That you are in your home and there's all these monsters who are like, no, I'm the real one. And you're sort of screaming at the person who can help you, and that person has no way of differentiating and everything. So it was just a really cool moment in a game that I don't think psychological horror in games always works, and this was a moment that actually worked.
And I only became aware of the game a few weeks ago when somebody else that I was watching was ranking their favorite games of the year, and this was on his list. He's a big horror fan. I'm not much of a horror person, but when he was talking about it, I was like, man, maybe this is one of the exceptions I make where I dip my toes into the pool of horror to experience it, because it sounds like a pretty cool game.
Yeah.
I think it's a more accessible horror game than some, which, you know, like this is less of the jump scare,
Sure.
like terrify you sort of thing. I think looking at this list, I do not think Bollock's Pit makes it.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like as cool as that is, I think some of these are more distinct.
Yeah, so does that leave us with 3, 4?
4. So right now
we
I
didn't
have.
even talk
I mean,
about
we haven't talked
the-
about Flambe's cover, but
Yeah, we talked about it before the podcast started, of being like, this was such a amazing moment in the games, because like the first time you hear it, you just hear a part of it and it's like, oh, okay, that was funny, and then it comes back in the credits, so very much like Monaco's theme.
You must have been ready to see the softer side. So, I back up, sing for me. I can understand how you could be so confused. I don't envy you. I'm a little bit of everything, all rolled into one. I'm a bitch. My name's Robert. Such a bitch whose name is Robert. I'm a bitch.
Okay. Hopefully we don't get delisted for playing a song. But I do think you have to hear it to appreciate.
I'm a bitch. My name's Robert.
so the context of this, if people aren't familiar, they're at a bar and Flambe is singing karaoke, and he is not a fan of Robert, who is the main character that you're playing, and he takes a little creative licensing with said Meredith Brooks,
Yeah.
bitch, and it's and I'll put it, it's one of the best moments of video games this year.
Yes.
And for people who are younger who maybe aren't familiar with that song, like that song was like a 90s feminist anthem. Like that song is, you know, I think it's a little more forgotten today than maybe some of its contemporaries, but like was huge at the time. And so like even just that being sort of a deep pool to some degree, that's the song they pick.
It's one of those things that I feel like if you're a certain age, you immediately recognize that song, right?
Yeah.
And I would be interested in talking to somebody who's younger if they had even heard, or like, what is this song?
Right.
Do they get the reference?
Sure.
Right.
Because I hear more about Prism's song whenever I hear anything about that scene than I do the Flambe. But that's, to me, I've just, attributed it to, like, the fact that Prism's, her voice actress is more, I don't know, is on TikTok, and some
Sure.
people are able to access it more. So that would be a little experiment.
Yeah. But I do think it's funny because if you go listen to and watch the actual Meredith Brooks music video, I think literally the top comment is, "We're all here because of blah blah blah." After Flambe, sang it, and
I mean,
so, like,
it's the equivalent of all the songs used in Stranger Things, like ending up back on the charts.
Yep.
Kate
Bush.
Yeah, Bush, yeah.
And so I know we have 4. I'd be okay putting this at 1 and then
Yes,
determining what the runner up is from the other 3.
Yes.
I think this one definitely makes the winners.
Yes.
Like we can talk about which place, but like I think it definitely makes it. Because I do think I told you this was one of the moments in the game where I was like, "Oh, amazing!" Like, good on you, game. Like, and talking about this game coming back, we talked about this off the air, but like, it is used in a moment of the game, and you hear just a little bit of it, and then when it gets to the end of that episode of the game, it plays over the credits, the full version of the song. So like that, what I was just playing is that full version, I assume taken from those credits. And you're like, oh, I'm going to set through this entire
Yes.
credit sequence
Yes.
because I want to hear
That's exactly what I did.
it's not quite Weird Al, but it is like on that level to some degree.
Well, it's one of those things that it feels like there's, I don't know, such a humanity to that moment as well, because it's like you could see somebody that you don't like singing that about somebody that, but you could see that about like somebody's friend sending it to their friend named Robert.
Right.
Yeah.
And Robert's reaction in that scene, where he refuses to even look and acknowledge him because
He just like rolls his eyes at
and you're just like, yeah, this is like, you deserve this. This is the right amount of like punishment for you.
So can I put up then that our top two, if we're not ready to put that at number one, can I put up that our top two is Flambe and Fred's?
That's what I have.
If the two of you are okay with that one.
Yeah, because I mean, like, again, I think Hug and Molly's lair is incredible.
Yeah.
Monaco's theme is incredible, but I think that
Is Monica's theme
there's-
as epic as bitch?
there's more, I don't know what the right word is. There's less substance to that moment in terms of like the context of the game and the context of you playing it, other than just like, yeah. So I think that especially like when we consider the games themselves, I think I'd be good putting Flambe and Fred's as our two.
Based on what you said about Fred's, like that moment of horror and like messing with your brain, that's kind of hard to capture in games. Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the reason I put this on here is because that so rarely happens with horror games for me, right? Like, I like horror games, but they so rarely actually scare me.
Because so many times now they just rely on like jump scares and stuff, whereas this feels like, oh no, wait a minute, like I'm gonna actually mess something up.
Yeah, it's a horror game that made me stop and think for a second, which is, to me, says a lot. Yeah, okay, I'm good with those two winning. I think Flambe is definitely the overall winner. Like, that is just of a great game, that is the highlight moment of the game.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things. I mean, granted, Dispatch is also a significantly bigger game, in terms of like popular appeal. But like, this is a moment that it feels like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, people could make that reference in games and we'll all be like, oh yeah. I mean,
his name is Robert.
I mean, it is this is a triumph, huge success, right? From the end of Portal. Like, it is a moment where a song sort of transcends the game, right? All right, so most disappointing game. Your winner is Flambe's cover.
no, best moments in a game.
What did I say?
Most
disappointing.
disappointing.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
opposite
It's
of
right
that.
above. It's right above. I'm misreading. Best moment in a game. Excuse me. The winner is Flambe's cover of Meredith Brooks' Bitch. And our first runner-up is Fred's from Look Outside. All right. Next is most aesthetically pleasing game of the year. So this was our eventual compromise of how do we say the game that we most liked looking at this year, because we didn't want to just say the best looking game, because then you get into technical versus design.
Right.
So most aesthetically pleasing overall package. This is the game we most enjoyed looking at. Christina, would you like to read our nominees?
Yes, because I actually want to add one to this.
Okay, great.
So is this Pipistrello? Is that how you say it?
Yes.
Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo, Skate Story, South of Midnight, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, Luminous Arise, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and then the one I'm going to add, and I'll explain it a little bit, is No, I'm Not a Human.
Okay.
Which I will immediately take off. I just wanted to give it a shout out.
Yeah.
Basically, so this is a game that was on Steam, very similar to a Papers, Please, in that
You talked about this on the podcast. Okay.
Where you have to screen individuals before you bring them into their house. Essentially, there's something wrong with the sun, and so during the day, it's no one can go outside without seriously burning their body, and at night, there are these things called the visitors that can take on the form of humans that will come. And if you're by yourself, the visitors will come in. But if you have other people with you, they will leave you alone. However, that also means that people that come to your house to try to get in and have safety could potentially be visitors themselves. And so you have to go through all of the tests to be like, which one's a visitor and which one's not. And the aesthetics of this, like, aesthetically pleasing, this is where I'm going to take it off. It's not necessarily a game I wanted to stare at, but the actual aesthetic of the game itself is just, because it's a horror game, it's so perfect for what it is. And it's hard to explain. It's like they use like, looks like Pixar photos of people that they just kind of transpose into the game, like so much so that there was a whole tutorial on like how to put yourself into the game in this really weird art style, because each person essentially that you meet has very different storylines. Like there's one she's a kindergarten teacher, and one of the people that are first targeted to be visitors are children, and so she tries to save the children, and just, I don't know, her face, it's so like creepy, sad at the same time.
I know you're saying you're cutting it, but just from what I'm hearing you say, might this be a better fit or one that you'd feel more strongly about in most stylish game?
Oh, I forgot that was one as well. Yeah.
Because, I guess, if we tend to think about stylish game as like, it might not necessarily be like conventionally appealing, but there's like a very clear style that this game is leaning on, and it leans into that style.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but that's smart. So I'm gonna cut it because it fits better in the other. But I will be so I'll just basically cross-apply everything I just said to most stylish game.
We'll talk about it again there.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and cut Luminous Arise. I think it is very aesthetically pleasing in the way that, again, if you have not played this, you may have played Tetris Effect. Those games have a very clear aesthetic, and I think it's very fun just to look at those games. But I think there are stronger candidates here, so I don't think it makes it.
Can I take us on a slightly massive tangent really quickly?
Slightly.
A massive tangent quickly.
Slightly massive tangent quickly that we can discuss more. Just thinking about games like Luminous Arise or like other games when we think about like the broader aspects of aesthetics, can we put can we make a category for next year? It doesn't have to be this year, of like best game feel. Thinking about like Luminous Arise or Sectori, where you get into that flow state. Because one that I was thinking about.
I mean, we could add that this year.
Okay, well, I mean, we could. Was like Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Sure.
Where it's like, I don't know if it's aesthetically pleasing based strictly on the way it looks, but there's something about just like smashing the terrain about you that feels really good.
Okay. All right. Let's finish this category.
Sure, of course.
And we'll add new categories.
I tried to bring so many categories into this one category.
I felt like
I mean, that is part of the problem. Some of these categories are like, we have different games we want to talk about. Let's make a category for this. And then we're like, but actually we want to sort of like narrow out. Like there's actually a category that I deleted that was originally on this list.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Anyways.
But okay, we can do that. So let's talk about this category.
Yeah, I didn't know when else I would have a chance to bring it up. So I figured I'll bring it up right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll talk about Pipistrello. So Pipistrello is a game that came out this year, and it uses the Game Boy Advance aesthetic. It is very much leaning into that style, and while I think I have a lot of nostalgia for that style, just growing up with like, I don't know, if I had to guess, the Game Boy Advance is probably like the most amount of hours I've put into any like console or handheld. I think it captures that style and that aesthetic really well. And so I really, really like it. I don't know if it's, again, you're like, oh, this is so beautiful to look at, but I wanted to at least give it some acknowledgement here.
And I did want to, like, with South of Midnight, I know that as soon as the trailer came out, I think we even talked about how it was going to be on this list. The one disappointing thing that we can kind of argue back and forth with its aesthetics is, like, the really cool, almost claymation style aesthetic that's in the trailer isn't something that's followed through in the game. It's like the cutscenes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's close, and so it's still a really amazing looking game, but that would be the one, like,
Yeah.
notch against it, maybe.
I think I would be okay cutting South of Midnight, to be honest. I do think that, I mean, I imagine that would be so difficult to do that style for the game itself.
Oh, for sure.
But I think that's one of those other things where, again, maybe this is one that also fits into, like, the style of those cutscenes are really good, and the game doesn't necessarily capture the rest of it. Outside of that, the game is, it's got the same, like, graphic fidelity of basically any other game, which means it looks great.
Yeah,
but
it does. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the disconnect in that game actually hurts it because the disconnect between the very stylish cutscenes, which are at a lower frame rate, right? Like they're at that sort of stutter frame rate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the main gameplay just looks like any other third-person action game. And I think that actually hurts the game because, those cutscenes are really cool. And then the game doesn't really follow through with that.
But I think that if they had tried to do it and had that, like, kind of stutter frame that you talked about, if we would be complaining about it feels like it's lagging in the gameplay.
I think people absolutely would.
Yeah. I think we're cutting it, but I think one thing that I do want to highlight, I think South of Midnight has some of the best, like, environmental set pieces of games this year.
Yeah.
There's one,
especially that last where everything's floating.
oh, that one is you're in that sort of, like, dream world.
Yeah.
That's really good. The one that I think of is the boss fight where you're in the swamp. Well, I guess there's, like, multiple swamps, but the one against Two-Toed Tom.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of.
Giant alligator.
Yeah, that's whole, like, the way that they've built out that environment is really good. Like I said, I think, like, the environmental set pieces and, even in, like, some of the cutscenes as well are pretty fantastic in that game.
I think that's a game that maybe fits style
Maybe, yeah.
more. I'll talk about Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I think one of the things that really stands out about this game as a 2D action game is the sort of, like, painterly graphics of it. It's 2D graphics. Everything looks hand painted. There are moments in that game, like when you're running through the city at night and fireworks are going off, and that game just looks incredible. I think we don't get games that look like that very often anymore. And, really to take that sort of 16-bit style and update it and make it look like it never actually looked back then.
I was trying to think, like, which one is this one? The other one I was thinking of was the Ninja Gaiden Ragebound game.
That game very much looks like an 8-bit game.
Yeah.
But, like, it's not a particularly pretty game to
I
look
forgot.
at.
This is the one with, like, the really cool background. Like,
Right.
it looks like normal platformer, but then the background, it just, like, makes everything pop.
Yeah. So I do think that probably hangs on this list for now.
Sure.
Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is just, like, that is the best looking Switch 2 game. Like, had you released that game as the launch game, maybe people would still be disappointed with it, right? Like, we certainly talked about it being one of the most disappointing games. But it is a game that looks next gen. At least the Switch 2 version, right? It also came out on the Switch 1. But, like, the Switch 2 version really looks like a next-gen game. It can run up to 120 frames per second. I think that game looks really good. Though, I think Shinobi is probably a more overall aesthetically pleasing game.
Yeah.
And so I'd probably put it over it. I don't know. I guess Skate Story's the other one.
Yeah,
haven't talked about?
I didn't play that. I've just looked it up though, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, Skate Story is that game came out really late in the year. I want to say December or so, but it uses this not abstract, but like I don't know how you would even describe it.
Polygon.
Yeah,
or
it's like
whatever.
this sort of polygonal style,
Yes.
but it the there's something about it that is just like really nice to look at. I think
Yeah.
it again is another one. I don't know if we have it in style, but it probably fits in style as well. There's just so much of it that in terms of like how it looks, how it represents the world that you're skating through, is very much. It's very simple, but in a I don't know how to even describe it, but it looks good.
Yeah, just the pictures of it are really really cool.
Yeah. I'm actually a little stuck here on like what wins in this, because I think we have 4 very different nominations left.
What was the
I-
fourth
we-
one? I forgot.
I was gonna say I was gonna be okay if we cut Pipistrello.
Okay.
I like that one is very personal to like a style that I enjoy, but I don't or like what I find pleasing in that game, but I don't know if it's doing anything additional beyond
Yeah.
just
so it's like
that particular.
nostalgic is
Yeah,
what makes it. Yeah.
I think that game is capturing a very specific style in the way that we've had games that have tried to recapture like what N64 games look like or what PS1 games, and that's trying to recapture what Game Boy Advance games looked like.
Well,
And I think it does a really good job at that. I don't think it's as aesthetically pleasing as some of these others.
Yeah.
I guess I would say.
I think I crossed one off too early. The only 2 that I have are Skate Story and Shinobi.
Metroid.
Oh,
is
okay.
the other
Yep, I
one.
did cross it off too early. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I think I would be okay looking at what's left here with Shinobi and Skate Story.
okay.
I think Metroid Prime really looks great, but I think Metroid Prime looks like a Metroid Prime game, where these other 2 are doing something kind of new and different.
Yeah.
That to me makes them stand out. a little
Metroid
more.
Prime is what I expect every game to look like from sort of this point moving forward.
Yeah.
In the sense, at least in the sense of like, again, that like graphic fidelity.
Which is
Right.
what we were talking about, like why we changed it to this as opposed to like best looking game.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do a really good job of capturing that like organic alien world better than, most people. But yeah, I mean, I think Shinobi and Skate Story are doing something more interesting. I would argue for Shinobi to win this.
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine with me.
That's what I was leaning towards.
All right. So your most aesthetically pleasing game of the year is Shinobi Art of Vengeance, with your runner-up Skate Story. All right. Our next category is Ode Game of the Year. And this is a new category we added this year for games that were not released in 2025, right? So this is a game that we played this year that we really enjoyed that did not actually come out this year. Because I feel like we always have people going, I really love this game, but I can't include it because it didn't actually come out this year. So I will go ahead and read these. Death Bulge, Battle of the Bands, Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils, If Found, Ghost Trick, Phantom Detective, the Jackbox Survey Scramble, Crash Bandicoot, Insane Trilogy, and I feel like Dead by Daylight automatically
Oh my God.
makes this list every year.
I'm okay with cutting it, but also there's some really cool stuff happening.
Maybe that's another new category, which is like best Dead by Daylight. It's Dead by Daylight.
They win again this year. They win every
Listen,
year.
7 years running.
I try not to do that. Try.
But yeah, so like we said, this is our way of acknowledging a game that we really enjoyed, we played this year that we had not, that didn't come out this year, but like we're catching up on in our backlog. Does anybody want to take one of these and talk about?
All right, well, I can talk about. I mean, I added 4 of these games to the list, so I can start here.
Okay.
I guess if I'll the first 2 I'm good just cutting immediately. I just want to talk about them a little bit. Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Toils. Like I said, with Pipistrello using that Game Boy Advance aesthetic, Curse Crackers has a Game Boy Color aesthetic. The developers, Color Grave, that is kind of their whole shtick with a lot of their games, as they make them in that Game Boy Color style.
Yeah.
And they're like genuinely one of the most prolific studios going right now. They are pumping out games, and like all with a pretty solid quality to them. I think they've put out like 4 or 5 games in the last 2 or 3 years, with another one coming out this year. So yeah, like I said, I'm good cutting Curse Crackers, but it's a cool game. People should look it up and really look up their other releases as well. The other one that I'm going to be okay cutting. Actually, I mean, I'd be okay cutting 3 of these. There's one of them that's a pretty clearly above the rest for me. Is If Found. If Found is a little, how do you describe it? I guess it's sort of a visual novel. I feel like Ryan talked about this game as well. But If Found is a visual novel. It's about this young person going back home, which is this very small sort of town village in Ireland, and they're sort of dealing with, or they're coming out to their families and to their communities, and the responses to that. And I think this game is really beautifully done in the ways that, one, it represents a lot of like their relationships, in ways that I think are real and honest. But the gameplay, if that's how we want to call it, is essentially you going through a lot of these old notebooks and erasing, like your cursor is an eraser, and you're erasing a lot of these aspects of the story, or these scribbles that are obscuring part of the story, so that you are learning more about who this person is, and like I said, their relationships to others. And it's really well done. I think it's really like kind of cool, because like as you progress, the eraser starts to get smaller and smaller as well. So it like shows like how you have moved through it. It's well done. I think, it's one of those very small little indie games that you could beat in a single day, 2 hours or so.
Yeah.
And then the next one that I will talk about, but also cut, is...
Well, before you cut another one, let's talk about some of these others, because
Okay.
I don't want you to cut everything you added.
Well, I guess I feel like I said, there's one that very much stands out for me as what my number one would
Crash
be
Bandicoot?
of the 4 that I added.
I'll talk about one of these I added, and that's the Jackbox Survey Scramble. And I've talked about that, like games that's fun to play at the holidays. And that's when I did play some more of it, but I also played some of that with a group of students this year. Going back and replaying that game, the thing I'll say, I think it holds up better than most games of that style, because by its very construction, its very nature, it is always rewriting the answers. So like, even if you've had a particular category before, the answers aren't going to be the same, because they're taking what people have entered and updating it constantly, which, if you've played like Fibbage, one of the other games by Jackbox Games, eventually you will start to get the same questions, right? Which then makes you seem like a genius, because you automatically know. And that's always been a problem with trivia games of this style. Yeah. I think this game gets around that. But I don't think it holds up against some of these others on this list.
Okay.
And then the other one I'll add on here is the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. This is the remake of the first 3 Crash Bandicoot games. I think they go very far in making these games playable in a modern day setting. One, just they look fantastic, but those games looked really great when they came out on the PlayStation 1. But like they look like modern day games. I think they fixed some of the quirkiness with the controls. I think that's a pretty amazing package that can be picked up incredibly cheap.
Yeah, I grabbed it.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I did.
I think all 3 of us did.
It was like $3 or something like that.
Yeah. And for $3, like that's an amazing amount of content, and it holds up pretty well. I will say, I started playing. I blew through the first game and got maybe halfway through the second game and was like, "That's enough Crash Bandicoot." So it is a lot of the same game, but I think that's a pretty good package
For sure.
overall, and particularly on sale. So we can keep it for now. I'm not sure that it's going to win because I think maybe, Mario, you're a little more enthusiastic about these other 2.
I mean, I'm definitely enthusiastic about them, that's for sure. So the next one I'll talk about is Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. This was, I think, originally a DS game that has since been re-released most places. It's on PC. I played it on Steam. Ghost Trick is a puzzle game where you're sort of creating these like little Rube Goldberg machines. And, so you are a ghost. And the way that the game immediately starts is that you are looking over your dead body. And it says like, oh, ghosts don't remember anything about their past. And they have, 24 hours where they can manipulate the world around them. And so in manipulating all of these different objects, you progress through this story to uncover how it is that you are looking over your dead body. It is really fantastic. I think most people who have played this game would say that it's a pretty great game. And it's now that it's on Steam and like really accessible to a lot of people, I can't recommend it enough. I think that's one of the things I know I've talked about. I've been playing a lot of original DS games as of late. I'm really glad that a lot of these studios are figuring out how to port their games to other consoles in ways that doesn't, obviously with the DS having 2 screens, in ways that doesn't hurt the gameplay, because I think there's ways that a lot of those games will end up just trapped on the DS or the 3DS. And so the fact that this one has been able to, sort of travel to PC, like I said, I played the PC version. It's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough.
That's cool.
And do you want to talk about the other?
Sure. And then the last one is Death Bulge Battle of the Bands. This is an RPG, a Battle of the Bands RPG, where your combat is essentially like using the like measures of the music, and you can manipulate those measures based in the sense of like how fast you progress through them, and like different status effects that you can set on both your like measure bar as well as the other, like your opponent's bar as well. So like both positive effects on yours and negative effects on others. I think one of the best, this game is genuinely so funny. Like this game had me like laughing while I was playing it. It's silly, it's goofy. Death Bulge is a comic strip, and the people that made that comic strip, expanded it into this game. And it's, not just like one of my favorite games from this year, but it's one that is like, I'm not going to say like it's a top 5 game for me, but like it's on a short list of like one of the favorite games that I've played. And like I said, I don't think that's just like, I think the fact that, like I said, it made me laugh as much as it did is what will like hold it there beyond just like, it's a cool game to play. But like it's doing things beyond just like it being funny. Like it's doing things with that RPG turn-based genre of like combat in ways that I think are interesting.
Okay. I don't think Crash Bandicoot holds with these other two.
Yeah, I crossed it off.
Didn't even give it a shot.
Listen, no, I did. I bought it.
No, I mean,
It
like
has $3 of my dollars.
it's a cool package, and if you can get that for less than $10, it's entirely worth it, right? But I think these other two are stronger candidates. It sounds like Battle of the Bands wins.
Yeah, that's my pretty easy number one of if I'm comparing it to Ghost Trick at least.
All right, easy enough. Our old game of the year, this is for non-2025 releases, is Death Bulge Battle of the Bands with the runner-up Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Okay, next is our best game with friends. So this is a multiplayer game, fun to play with friends. It can be multiplayer in a lot of different ways. Christina, would you like to read the nominations for that?
Yeah, so Best Game with Friends nominees are Peak, Lego Party, Split Fiction, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, and Recreation.
And I'll go ahead and add a nominee on here because we talked about it in regards to this earlier, which is Mario Kart World. I don't know that it ends up hanging here. It can get knocked off really quick. But I will say Mario Kart World is still an awful lot of fun to play with friends. I think particularly if you get a group online, because you can have so many online players now playing that game together.
That knockout mode is really one of like the shining stars of that game.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it doesn't do a lot new. That is the part that it does exceptionally well new.
Yeah.
And they took standard Mario Kart races and figured out a way to make them feel fresh and new again with that knockout mode. So I do think that's a really good game. I don't think it's going to hang with the other ones on this list. So we'll go ahead and mark it off.
I think that's fair.
I will go ahead and also say that I don't think Recreation is going to end up making it. I think that game, again, much like Burnout Paradise, it has some really cool multiplayer modes in it. Burnout Paradise was one of the first games to sort of be like, hey, like, here's an open world, get all your friends, and you're all driving around, and then you can like set, we're starting a race over here, and everybody drive over here, and we're going to have this race together. And Recreation carries over a lot of that. One of the things that it does is it allows you to sort of like build tracks within the world, and so then you can invite people in to race those tracks that you've built. I think it does a lot of cool stuff with that. One of the problems is fundamentally no one's playing it. I mean, so there's just not a lot of multiplayer gaming to be done with the game, unfortunately. But I do think it's really cool with a lot of what it does. But we'll go ahead and knock it off for now.
Did either of you play Split Fiction?
I watched quite a bit of it. It looks like a lot of fun.
I did not end up getting to play.
I can talk about Split Fiction then. I think Split Fiction is really good. I think that it compares really well. Like it stands up with It Takes Two. You know, It Takes Two ended up winning Game of the Year the year that it came out.
Not our Game of the Year.
Not
but
sure. Like
Achilles.
It did win a Keeley for Game of the Year. And I think that it is no worse than It Takes Two.
That sounds like faint praise. It's no worse than this game.
I mean, I feel like if a game was Game of the Year, is
no.
good? Okay.
It sounds like the way you pay a backhanded compliment to something. It's
I'm
no
sorry.
worse than this.
It is a very good game. It, like I said, I think that there are moments of that game. So in It Takes Two, it had these little like head-to-head competition mini games that you could do.
Sure.
And Split Fiction does some of that, but it incorporates them into these like completely opposite side stories. So you obviously are playing as these two women. One of them is a sci-fi writer, one of them is a fantasy writer. And as you progress through one of their worlds, a portal to the opposite genre is there. And it's these little side stories that some of them end up being more competitive than others. And one of them is sort of like an SSX tricky where you're like I think you're surfing, but
You have my attention.
where you're like scoring points with maybe you're hoverboarding. I don't know. Anyways, but you're like scoring points in like an SSX tricky or a Tony Hawk style way as you're progressing down this mountain. Those moments are some of the best in the game. I think I thought I had added one more, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, to best moment in a game, but maybe this got printed before I added that. But there's one where one of the characters is very early on, is driving a motorcycle, and you are trying to hack into this thing, and the other character is on the back of the motorcycle, and they're on their smartphone, and you are essentially filling out like all of these like captchas of like proving your humanity, and it's one of the best moments in the game. It's so silly, it's so fun. Split Fiction is a really great time.
It feels like those developers have figured out how to do that split co-op gameplay. Like their first couple of games where they attempted this, particularly I'm thinking of No Way Out, the prison one.
A Way Out.
A Way Out. No Way Out would also work as the title. But like, I think about that game and they were trying it and it felt like they hadn't quite figured it out. And then over these last two games, they've really focused in and figured out like, how do you split up gameplay and make it fun and make it make sense within the game world and everything. It's very impressive because so many people have tried that in the past and not been successful with it.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's pretty fantastic. The fact, I don't know if it necessarily hurts in this category, the fact that you can only play this with one other person, like at least at a time.
Maybe you only have one friend.
I played it with my cousin. So,
I don't think that hurts it because, in that case, an MMO wins this every year because you can play it with, thousands of people.
Yeah, that's fair. But I do think it's very good. I would actually be okay cutting it if people want to.
I think keeping it on here until we investigate some of these other ones, I would be fine with that because I also really again, I didn't play it, I watched it, but I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think we'll hang it on there for now. I'll talk about Lego Party real quick. Lego Party is the best Mario Party game, maybe I guess ever. It is
since 3.
Yeah. And I say that I sort of joke about Mario Party, but I think Mario Party there's a reason they've made 12, 15 of those
Several.
Mario Party games.
Yeah.
Those games have an audience and they're successful, and the mini games can, in their best case scenario, be quite a bit of fun. I would argue that I think recent Mario Party games have stumbled a bit.
Yes.
They've gotten a little stale.
Yeah.
And
then when they try to liven it up, with the Wii U, putting Bowser as that big controller and everybody else, Bowser was way overpowered. They just couldn't figure out how to reinvent it.
Yeah, and I think the games, and I think when I originally talked about this game, I said I think Mario Party games have in some ways gotten a little too complicated. They almost feel like they should be like the game of life, and over the years they have become the board game from the board game store, where you come in and you sit down, your friends are like, okay, let me explain the game to you. So, and it takes 2 hours for them to explain the game and to set the game up, and you're like, no, I just want to play a simple game. I just want to jump in with something I can play with. And Lego Party sort of strips away so much of that and says, no, what you want to do is you want to roll the dice. You want to play a mini game. You want the mini games to all be, fun, like good, solid games. And then all the like garbage on top of that, you want as little of that as possible. And like, that's not going to be everyone. But I feel like this is the best one of these. First, it's the best non-Mario Party game anyone's ever made, at least that I've played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
And then I would say it's the best one of these that's been made in years, period.
Plus, it's like more accessible because isn't it on Netflix?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. You can do it streaming over Netflix and use your phone as a controller.
So it makes it even more accessible, I think, which gives it a leg up as well, I think.
But I think this is the sort of game that I don't feel bad sitting down with people who don't play video games and playing this with them.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's entirely accessible, but people who play video games would also get a great deal of enjoyment, which is what I want out of this style of game, of a party game.
Yep.
So I just think it's really successful at that.
What is Peak? I don't remember talking about
I
that.
say Peak. I'm not saying it has to be. Peak is my number one in this category, which is
Peak is peak for
Peak
him.
is truly
is
peak.
peak.
Peak is excellent. Peak is one of the games that people are now referring to as friend slop, where it is just these, like, I imagine cheaply made games where the point is to
RV There Yet is
Yeah.
another one from this year.
Thing, Lethal Company, all those kinds of games.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
it's one of those games where, so like I believe the academic categorization is a stupid game where the best part of the game is failing. Right.
Yeah,
So like think like Twister. The most fun you have in Twister is when everybody falls on top of each other, right? And so Peak is one of those games where you are climbing a mountain with your friends. But the best part of it is it has proximity chat. So when your friend falls down the mountain, you get to hear their voice fade off into the distance.
Which is usually somebody going, or, oh, shit.
But I think it's one of those things where, like, the first time you play that game, it is. I mean, I've played it a number of times, but it really captures a lot of the silliness of getting to play games with friends, watching your friends, lose and die, and you then losing and dying, and it's very, very good.
It's human fall flat with a more concentrated goal.
Okay.
I mean, it's sort of a way to like think about it. Like, it is that sort of control and gameplay to it and everything. I think that game sort of succeeds in spite of itself, because a lot of those friend slop games are, that term, though disparaging, is sort of fitting for a lot of those games, in that there's not a lot to them, and Peak sort of manages to actually make the game of what you're actually doing fun, which is where a lot of those games I feel like fell, where a lot of them just become, here's work for you to do, and we're going to make it hard because the controls are kind of sloppy. And Peak actually makes, climbing the mountain, like, you could sit and play that game single player, and it would be interesting and a decent game.
And there's a challenge to it as well. Like,
But-
so I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
please.
I was just going to say, but I think the multiplayer aspect elevates it significantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, you could play this game single player and still have a good time, but playing with your friends makes it, like, I would put it into like one of the must plays of 2025. Like, that's how good I think it is. Maybe not like you're going to play it for the rest of your life, but like that first time, it really, really is a good time.
Yeah, I think that's like I said, it's a game that sort of succeeds in spite of its trappings and everything, and I think that says something about the developers.
Yeah.
Like, the developers had something and they expanded on it in smart ways, like the tools that they give you, like you can get a rope, and so you can drill the rope into the rock and then lower it down so somebody else can climb up. And like there's this sort of push and pull all the time of you're finding new tools to help. You can't really leave people behind. Like if you leave people behind, you get punished. So like you are constantly encouraged to bring your friends along with you, even if they're annoying you, which they surely will when they like fall off the mountain.
And it has like a stamina bar as well. And so like you have like all
sort of Zelda style climbing.
So you have all this gear that you have to carry, and so that affects the stamina bar. You have like a hunger bar that you have to manage. I think one of the other silly moments is that,
but it's not a survival game in the traditional sense.
Sure.
Like it is not. That is not annoying in the way that it may sound like from other games.
Yeah, there are not a ton of moments where like it's frustrating at times, but like not that, again, that first time you're playing it, it's something that's worth doing. But it's with that hunger bar, if like your hunger bar starts like gets too high, there's a cannibalism mode and your friends turn into like rotisserie chickens and you can then eat your friend to get your hunger bar down all the way to zero.
I love this.
Last game on here, just to talk about real quick, is Mortal Kombat: The Legacy Collection. Mortal Kombat has always been a great game with friends. This is just a collection. The thing and the reason I included this on here is this is the easiest way to play these games. Like these games, a lot of them have been very difficult to be able to play over the years. I mean, you could play them through MAME, but then like if you're trying to play that online or something, this has made that, super simple. In order to do is put all the games that most people really want out of the Mortal Kombat franchise 1 through 4 into a collection together. Is included things like Mortal Kombat Trilogy, which feels like a ROM hack to begin with because it's all the variations of different characters over the years.
Mortal Kombat Mythologies, you can watch your friends yell at the screen.
Yeah, that one's not multiplayer, but like you can still have some fun with friends. Like that feels like a great drinking game. Yeah. But like that's a fantastic collection of those games. It probably, doesn't belong with these other 3 on here, but there are certainly worse games you could deal with playing, with a group of friends. If you have a group of friends who grew up with those games or just like fighting games, I think that's a fantastic value. But we can go ahead and take it off because I don't think it's going to make our top 2.
As I say, I'd also would propose that Peak and Lego Party are our top 2.
I was going to say that.
I think that's fair, and I would say Peak wins.
Okay, I was going to say Peak is my number 1. I'd be okay either way, though.
I feel like Peak wins because it's an entirely new experience.
Sure.
And I think it's one of those, you could miss playing Lego Party and not miss out. If you miss playing Peak, you're missing a unique experience.
I think that's fair.
Okay, so our best game with friends, winner is Peak with Lego Party as our runner-up. Do either of you need a break?
I might take a little break if that's okay.
Okay,
Grab
give
some
us
water
just
really
1
quick.
second. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more of our awards. All right, we are back from our break. Let's move on to our next category. And our next category is Best Retro Bone. So this is our category for best retro game. This kind of came out of, we had a whole lot of games that were remakes or collections, but then we also had a lot of games that were sort of tributes, right? Like they were homages to a particular time period or style of game. And so we thought there needs to be a category for this. And so we've been doing this category for a few years now. Mario, would you like to read the nominations?
Sure. So the nominees for Best Retro Bone are Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Nubby's Number Factory, and Shadow Labyrinth.
And I would think like this might be a category that Pipistrello could potentially like
Sure.
fit in because it is so much going for that particular aesthetic, right?
Yes.
And I would say, like, just to start this off, like Ninja Gaiden, that is why it's on this list. So both it and Shinobi came out this year. Shinobi is very much, while it's adhering to some of that sort of legacy of the game, it very much feels like a modern game. Ninja Gaiden is much more kind of leaning a little into trying to be a continuation of the original NES 8-bit Ninja Gaiden games. It's even like taking place at the same time as those games are. It sort of intersects with the story of the first Ninja Gaiden game. And it very much has more of kind of a retro 8-bit graphical style. It's not really 8-bit. It's really like 32-bit graphics, but it is trying to look like games, recapture some of that, the feel of those games of that era, I guess is the way to put it. I think it does a really good job. Ninja Gaiden, I don't think is as good of a game as Shinobi, but it's pretty darn close. And it is very much kind of playing with the, I guess, like a lot of the boss design and everything, a very pattern-based gameplay, fighting bosses and everything. I think it probably hangs on here for at least a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
I mentioned the last category I talked about, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection. Again, there has not been an easy way to play a lot of these games in recent years. And even when there were ports of those games, a lot of those ports weren't very good. This is a collection of Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, Trilogy, Mortal Kombat 4, the
Mythologies.
Mortal Kombat Mythologies, and is it Special Forces? I think is the other one that's in this collection. And then the thing that really makes this cool is they have Mortal Kombat 1 in there. So they have the arcade game, but then they have the Super Nintendo and Genesis versions included as well. And then they'll have the Game Boy version or the Game Gear version, or they have so many different versions of these games, which, for most people, they'd look at it and say, well, who is ever going to want to play anything but the original version? But like, if you grew up playing the Genesis version, a lot of people, that's the game that they actually remember more than the arcade game, because they didn't actually play the arcade game all that much. And so it's also really neat from a sort of academic standpoint to be able to compare those games easily side by side to one another.
And from a preservation standpoint as well. Yeah.
I mean, very infamously, the Super Nintendo port of the original Mortal Kombat has no blood. Like, the blood has been recolored gray, so it looks like sweat. And, some of the fatalities have been altered and that sort of thing. So, like, that's really interesting to me to look at with a game like this and to look at with a collection. And then this is the, the Digital Eclipse people. So, like, of course, it has all the historical stuff. It has behind the scenes of them filming, the actors doing the stunts so that they could digitize that and, include it into the game and everything.
Do they have behind the scenes of the full motion video for Mortal Kombat Mythology?
Yeah, they do. They have some of them like filming that and everything, Quan Chi and which, that game is amazing to go back to now just because of all that full motion video stuff in it. It always was amazing from that aspect. So, I feel like one of these games gets nominated every year that they put out.
Basically, yeah.
And there's a reason why, because every year they put out an amazing collection, and it feels like every year they kind of get better. To me, this feels like this is the game they were created to make in a lot of ways. Like, people have long wanted this sort of comprehensive collection of the Mortal Kombat games, and they actually did it. and put it out here. And like the other thing I hear asked for at this level is like some of Nintendo's games, so that you would have interviews with the people who did the original Mario Brothers, you know, and that sort of thing. We probably never get that, but we did get this. So I think this is an amazing collection.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Nubby's Number Factory. So this was a little indie game that came out this year, and it is mostly on here for the way that it looks. It looks like it was made in like MS Paint or like Kid Pix or something like that. It is a roguelike pachinko game, basically, where each of your little orbs have a score on them, and as you hit them, the number goes up. You get a higher score. I don't think it probably shouldn't be on here any further than that. I'll talk about it probably more a little bit later, but I'm okay cutting Nubby's Number Factory here. It's one that I was like, I don't know if it necessarily fits in this category, but like if you look at it, it
looks like
definitely
old school
using
game,
that old style of aesthetic.
Yeah, it looks like an early phone game.
Yeah.
In some ways, right? Like, and that's very purposeful.
Yes.
I would think. Yeah, Shadow Labyrinth is on here. You know, we talked about this a little earlier. This is them trying to revitalize Pac-Man, and they're doing it through a Metroidvania, which is kind of, you know, they're doing it in a very sort of classic Metroidvania way. I think the thing that's kind of neat about this, there are sections where you take control of Puck, and who is the little Pac-Man thing that's following you around, and you end up in like Pac-Man style levels, and you're going around and you're having to like avoid sensors and different things, and you're like essentially launching yourself from wall to wall, and even at times battling bosses in that format. So you are in fact playing Pac-Man within the game, but you're playing like Pac-Man within the context of a Metroidvania. And so it does some really cool stuff with that as a way to try to reinvent Pac-Man. I don't think it's a super successful game, and for that reason, I would cut it off this list. But I think it's really trying to do something, and I appreciate that with the game. The other one on here is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. You know, a couple of years ago, we didn't think this game would ever happen because the studio got shut down and reassigned to working on Call of Duty, I think. And so they actually went outside and got a new studio to handle this. Not only did they manage to bring these games over, which are, you know, I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 may be, you know, one of my favorite games of all time. Not only did they bring the game over, but they actually added additional levels to it, and those additional levels don't feel out of place with the rest of the game. They added a water park level. There's a film studio level. There's even within the water park level, there's a hidden SpongeBob sub level within that, and all of that feels in place. It's the same sort of quality of design. And before anybody says, "Oh, well, you know, it's really easy to make one of those," you have not played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, which shows it is not super easy to make a Tony Hawk level, because you can really screw it up really badly like that game did. They didn't with this. I think it's kind of a minor miracle in that way. And those games just hold up. Like Tony Hawk is, you know, still one of the best franchises ever made. So
I haven't played any of those three. So I don't know. I mean, like, I'm going to be biased towards Tony Hawk, but I don't necessarily feel super strongly. If you feel strongly about
That's exactly
less about one of the three.
That's exactly what I was going to say. But yeah, I haven't played them, so.
is there anything else we want to bring onto this list? Or we...
I mean, like, Pipistrello definitely could fit, but I'm also okay. if we leave it at if two of these three that remain win.
I think Mortal Kombat belongs
I would agree.
Oh, for sure.
among these finalists. And then I'm sort of two minds. Ninja Gaiden's an entirely new game, and that impresses me a lot with it. Tony Hawk is, a remake of two games. There's a couple, 3 new levels. There's a pinball level, which is probably the highlight of the new levels, where you're Tony Hawk inside of a giant pinball machine. If you look up, there's a giant Tony Hawk playing the pinball machine.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
And so I'm a little biased towards Ninja Gaiden only because it's an entirely new game sort of done in that old style.
We also did just see, the earlier two Tony Hawks, them do that with this as well. So I've got no problem with Ninja Gaiden and Mortal Kombat. And if that's the case, it sounds like probably Mortal Kombat at number 1.
Yeah, I think it wins.
Sounds good.
All right, so our best retro bone goes to Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound as our first runner-up. Our best surprise of the year. This is the game that most surprised and delighted us in that maybe we just did not even see it coming, or maybe in some way it did something unique for us. Anyways, our nominees for that are Blippo Plus, Blueprints, Ball X Pit, Fortnite The Simpsons, and Roger. That is the name. There's nothing missing from the beginning of that. It begins with and Roger, and Despelote. I'll start with Fortnite The Simpsons. I don't think it's going to end up making this, but I think this was actually a really cool surprise to me, because this wasn't just, hey, we added Homer as a skin that you can play in Fortnite. We have completely taken the island and redesigned it to make it look like Springfield. And we've included all the locations. The Simpsons house is on here. Flanders' house is next door. You can go in the Simpsons house and sit on the couch in front of the TV, like the opening credits. You can go to Moe's Tavern. It's in there. The elementary school is there. They really went above and beyond for my expectations for a games as a service or a multiplayer game like this, of essentially a total conversion, right? In sort of mod terms, of what you're doing with a game of this nature. I am not a huge Fortnite fan. This did not convert me to a huge Fortnite fan, but it did get me to play Fortnite, and I was delighted.
That's the biggest surprise of the year.
Yeah.
Yes, for me as well. And I think it deserves recognition, as part of this category. I don't think it wins this category, but, kudos to them for going above and beyond to make this worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So we can cross that off. Blippo Plus, we haven't talked about this yet today. Blippo Plus is barely a game. It is, you are tuning into an alien cable feed where you can switch among different channels, and they have taken, it looks like community theater actors and had them create different shows that are approximations of shows that we have, but not direct parodies of them. So it's this thing where they're doing we're going to do a science show, and it's sort of like Beekman's World or something of that nature, but it's not that. And we're not doing a direct one-to-one parody of that, which to me is the more interesting route to take.
Yeah.
Because parody, either cannot work, and also it tends to only work for the first 30 seconds where you're that's clever. But this is so interesting, and they've created a world around it. It's not our world. It's this alien world where people look like us, but The culture and everything is different. So they're kind of alluding to things as you switch between different channels. You're kind of piecing the story together as you go. It's such a unique experiment of a game. Like, it is the last thing I expected somebody to do and do successfully. And so in that way, I think it fits this category really well. Even though it's a game I would have difficulty recommending to like just the general public at large.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Ball X Pit a good amount. I do think that, I mean, obviously Ball X Pit is pretty great. I mean, like, I do enjoy it. If for me, fell off fairly quickly, and like as I said earlier, in terms of that peak, it is a good surprise. It is one that I think people will should, if not play, at the very least look into. But I think that there's some others on here that I would put above it. So I will propose Ball X Pit being cut from this list, if we're okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blueprints was like, I want to say like at the very beginning of was it the semester or was it the year?
It was back like March or so,
Yeah.
February, March.
I was like, this is already going to be, I know it's going to be on my list for Game of the Year. All the way back then, just because it's so different. And I think that the more you play it, the more you get bogged down and the more it feels convoluted. But especially with it being like a guy doing it like by himself, so more or less, I don't know. It was a big shock, and the way that it kind of blew up, it seems like it was also a surprise to the community, like kind of writ large. So I like that it's on here.
Yeah, I think Blueprints is one of those games that is really interesting because you can get as much or as little out of it as you want.
Yes.
Like, you can, I feel like, try to mainline that game as much as you can mainline that game, because a lot of it has to do with randomness. But beating that game is not the end of that game.
Right.
Yeah.
And that game is always sort of peeling back new layers and revealing things. So I think in that way, that game is maybe the most surprising game because it is surprising within the game itself.
Yeah.
Like, I think you're right that it was a surprise because the game sort of came out of nowhere, or it felt like it did.
Yeah.
But it's also surprising as you play the game, you are constantly being surprised, I think, in mostly delightful ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say of these, Blueprints is probably at the top for me. So, I mean, I don't want to cut it. I don't think that's what anybody is saying. But, and I've played And Roger. I think that game is really pretty beautiful. I did not end up getting around to Despelote, Justin. I don't know if you did, if you'd like to talk about that one.
Yeah, Despelote is a sort of... I think the best way to describe it is a walking simulator. I would maybe argue it's a visual novel mixed with a walking simulator, in that you're really just sort of living out this story of a little boy as a revolution is going on around him. He's obsessed with soccer, and so most of the game you are engaging with soccer. There's not a whole lot of actual gameplay, though you do play like this version of sensible soccer on a game console connected to the TV, and that's kind of like fun, a neat little Easter egg within the game. I think it has a really cool story because it is a real events. Like, I don't think the little boy's story is inherently real, but like, it is historical fiction, I guess is the way. It is setting in a real historical events. I will say about that game, I did not like that game as much as And Roger. And Roger had a more emotional impact on me. I feel like And Roger is doing something more interesting in the game mechanics and how the game mechanics tie into the story and what that game is actually about.
Yeah.
So I would cut it before And Roger for that reason. So that leaves us with Blippo Plus, Blueprints, and Roger. I think Blueprints makes our 2 finalists.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's between Blippo Plus and Roger.
Yeah, like I said, I actually just played And Roger yesterday.
It is a game you can play in like 2 hours.
It was one of those things when we ended up pushing back to today. I was like, all right, well, I can at least do this one in this evening, and that way I can talk a little bit about it. That really is like a compelling story, beautiful, heartbreaking. The ways that it like slowly reveals itself from, chapter 1 into the later chapters. I mean, it's one of those things. I don't know if I would necessarily put it as the best surprise, just because I feel like there are a lot of games that I've played that are similar, that like are these short little things. I would put If Found, while not from this year, fits into that same sort of category.
Sure.
A Memoir Blue that I played a couple of years ago kind of fits into that category. So while not necessarily a surprise to me, I do think it's really a remarkable game. It's one that I would recommend to people. So that would be my only reason, is like for this specific category, I would be okay cutting it, particularly when we look at something like Blippo Plus in comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this game was maybe more surprising to me because I went in not knowing anything about it other than a recommendation. And I think that is the best way to go into the game.
Agreed.
We've talked about it on the podcast before, so I won't go into it other than...
that's why we haven't actually said much about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we want people to do that.
It was... Well, and I'll just say really quickly, after you had recommended it and you had said like, oh, try to read as much as possible, I got brought to the Steam page and I caught like the description on Steam.
Yeah.
And
Don't
even,
read as much as
don't
possible.
and it was one of those things like even that felt like too much. I'll say it did not go the direction I thought it was going to go. So I'm very glad about that. But that's about all I think we should say.
Yeah,
about
try
it.
not to look it up. Just go on Steam, buy it, play it.
I will say it is non-exploitive in the way that it tackles the things that it does.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. That may be what you're sort of thinking, Mario.
Yeah, and it's also well, I was gonna say like it provides that sort of like, I don't know, it clearly cares about the player as well in the ways that it talks through these things and the ways that it addresses it. And so anyways,
It doesn't go for cheap cheap things. It could cheap pulls.
sure,
that
absolutely,
it could.
yeah.
All right, yeah, I think that's fine. I can go along with that. I think Blueprints wins this, and then Blippo is our runner-up. All right, best surprise of the year. Your winner is Blueprints with runner-up Blippo Plus. All right, the next category is Chaos news of the year. I really should just get a sample of
OJ.
OJ did it and just keep playing it.
yeah, because none of us can do it as well as they can. Anyways, this is our Chaos news of the year. This is news from the gaming industry this year that really kind of was the biggest story, the craziest story, the most impactful story, right? Like this isn't, the title's a little funny, but the actual issues aren't necessarily funny within the category.
I think some of these we haven't even talked about because they're so recent as well.
Right. Some of these did happen over holiday break, sadly. So, Christina, would you like to read the nominees?
So the nominees for Chaos News of the Year is
Chaos.
I can't do it, OJ. I'm sorry. Is Vince Impella's death, the hardware price hikes, generative AI in games backlash, attempts at $80 games, and the Steam Machine announcement.
All right. This is a difficult category because I feel like all of these are fairly big and impactful. I think I would look at the attempts at $80 games because that has so floundered as not actually ending up being that significant. Like if we were talking about biggest disaster of the year, maybe that fits, particularly because Xbox announced they were going to be doing $80 games and then quickly rolled that back with the backlash against it. We already talked about Mario Kart and kind of, how that leads to people feeling disappointed in Mario Kart World. But I don't think that is as big a news story or as impactful as these others.
And the one that I kind of was drawn to as one that we might want to consider is the generative AI in games backlash, because for a couple of reasons. One, a game disqualified itself, right, for having that. Am I imagining this?
No, the Indie Game Awards revoked its Game of the Year from Clair Obscur.
Okay. But there's been a lot, and I think gaming industries just thought that they would be able to get by and it'd just be fine, and people widely accept this. And so the fact that there has been such a backlash, I think, is going to leave a lot of them scrambling, because many of them, laid off a bunch of people, maybe thinking that AI would be a way to make up for that, and it's not. It's not.
Yeah, I think I think you're right in that they were caught by surprise by the backlash, because within the tech industry, it's been sort of almost an eventual outcome. Like everybody has sort of given over to yes, AI is going to be stuck into every app that I have. It's going to be every device is going to be AI focused and everything. And people have kind of accepted it. Whereas in the game industry, because they're sort of tech, related, I think they thought, well, fine, we can do this too. And they forgot that they are an art. And people do not want AI in their art. They don't mind it being in Microsoft Word. They don't want it in their art.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know how much we really want to get into this. I think this is where I think that people are also being, how do I phrase this? A little unreasonable in how it gets used, and don't make an entirely AI game, sure. But I also think people need to realize games are going to take significantly longer if people aren't using these placeholders as we're doing this so that we can build out aspects of the game that we will ultimately replace.
Right.
I think it's one of those things do I want it as the core of the artistic aspect? No. But when it is useful to the technological side of we're using these programs so that we can do these things, I think that's where it's yeah, sure, go ahead. Because where it ultimately clashes for me is, and I think it's maybe it's a rock and a hard place, is we talk a lot about the health of the workplace for these creators. If this is making their jobs and their lives easier, yes, I think that they should be able to use these things without all of this backlash.
I think the question is it, or is it being used to replace those workers?
That's where I think it's I think it is finding that balance, right? I don't want people to lose their jobs over this, but I also think, no, you need to make everything by hand. Everything needs to be made by scratch. I think that's well, okay, let's hold on for a second. Maybe eventually everything that ends up in the game should be human created. But again, I'm not going to, if you are just doing this world building and it's hey, I need you to do this so that I can put characters into this space so that we see how it works, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I think the confusion here is that the game industry has been using AI tools for a while now, right? AI is suddenly the cool word, but they've been using AI tools for a long while. One of the most famous and often cited is SpeedTree. So when you see a game world and there's vegetation all over that game world, that is often a program called SpeedTree.
Yeah.
which just automatically populates the world with trees and bushes and shrubbery and stuff. And they're not going in and handcrafting each one of those trees, right? That would be like illogical as a way to do. And even, something like Skyrim, one of the most successful games ever made, the dungeons within that game, unlike Oblivion before it, in Skyrim, they're randomly generated, right? That's AI of a form, right? It's not the AI we talk about today, but like games have been using AI, going back to things like Rogue and even before it to generate entire levels of games and everything. Anytime you have a game that's generating random levels, is using an AI of some form, right? Enemies within games have AI routines, right? So like I think the term AI is very confusing. I think where people are getting pushback is where they feel like the artists who make a game are getting pushed out the door. So, just to cite a couple of examples, Call of Duty had a problem with this in that people saw literal like AI generated art on the menu screens within the game. So instead of creating original art there, somebody just typed into a prompt and created an AI art for it. And then Larian, who made Baldur's Gate 3, had announced that they were going to use AI in the sort of concept art stage of developing their new game. And there was a huge backlash against that because, people assume that means that concept artists who give a style and a look and, feeling to a game, that meant that they were going to get fired and replaced by an AI, creating more generic art.
Right.
In the process. Whether that's true or not, right, we don't know. And I think that's fair to like raise that concern and say like, okay, well, where is that point and everything? But I think, Mario, you make a good point that like AI is a part of the industry and has been for a long time.
And I guess I'll put it this way then as well. If you want everything to be human created, you can't complain about an $80 game. I'm sorry. Games are going to get more expensive because they're going to cost more to make.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's why games have gone up in price.
Yeah, right. Like, I think it's one of those things that like you can't have all of these things at once.
I was
And
thinking,
we can rank them in terms of like how desirable or like potentially unethical some of them. Some of them are. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I do think there has to reach a point where we have to be like something has to give eventually.
I was thinking like with the connections between them, I was thinking the same thing about the generative AI and the hardware price hikes because like obviously the tariffs and that's chaotic in its own right, but also the fact that AI, what are they called? Like the centers, there's a better name for that.
I know what we know what you're talking
So
about.
but they were buying up all of like the memory and stuff like that, which was then impacting Sony and Xbox and stuff like that's ability to get it. So it's almost as if like some of those things are related as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a very good point. They are related. I mean, particularly if we see price hikes going forward, right? Because that's where we're hitting the memory shortage now.
Yes.
Yeah, because I know it's the memory shortage, but then the other one is the GPUs, right? The graphics are the ones that are the net. I think the new thing that's going up. Well, I mean, those are already expensive, but I think those are the next thing that are really going up as well.
They already have.
Yeah.
Like, if you're trying to buy a new GPU for your computer.
Because then I mean, this is a little bit cheekier, but like with the Steam Machine announcement, I feel like our conversation has also just been about like, well, how much is it going to cost? And then the chaos around it being a lot more expensive than I think at least we had originally talked about.
Yeah.
I think just the fact that Steam is trying this again, and after having been successful with the Steam Deck, and it feels like this could be very successful. It felt like a major announcement. It felt like an earthquake in the game industry when this got announced.
Yeah.
People weren't necessarily expecting this, and for them to say, we're going to try to make home game computing easier, right? Which is the promise of a Steam Deck has been. Whether that's successful or not, and I think that's the biggest problem with this is we don't know the outcome of this yet. Like, this hasn't even launched, so maybe this is more of a 2026.
Yeah, I think we
don't know the price, we don't know the launch, any of that.
There are at least 4 of these that will definitely continue into 2026.
Yeah, so I'm fine with cutting the Steam machines. So the one thing that did happen entirely over holiday break was Vince Zampella died. For those who don't know, Vince Zampella was one of the creators of the Call of Duty franchise. He actually started at Electronic Arts with the Medal of Honor franchise. They left, the team that had been making those games left and created the Call of Duty franchise. He then eventually left Activision and created Respawn. They went on to make the Titanfall games and Apex Legends. He had then been sort of promoted up into head of sort of overseeing a lot of what Electronic Arts was doing with their games and everything. So, I don't think it can be overstated, his impact on the game industry, right? Like, it's always difficult to put one person, say this one person is responsible. He's not responsible alone for any of those games, but being involved with that many big game franchises at the high level that he was, right? Like, he has certainly reshaped the game industry. The game industry as we know it today owes a lot to Vince Zampella. What the long-term impact, you're right, of someone like him passing away, again, he is not alone making, these games anymore or anything. But his leadership and everything, I think, is a huge loss to the game industry.
Sure.
Absolutely. And, we've had other deaths this year. His was very sudden. He was somebody who was still very much in a major position at a AAA publisher, sort of guiding a lot of different games. So I feel like it's a major impact. That leaves us with his death, the hardware price hikes. We kind of a little mentioned that, the hardware price hikes that PlayStation, Microsoft have all raised their prices. Nintendo raised the price of the original Switch. They actually pulled the announcement of the Switch 2's launch and price because of the announcement of tariffs by Donald Trump. And so, there was a concern at one point that the price might go up on that. It hasn't yet. It seems likely this year in 2026 they might. And then, of course, the generative AI backlash, which I feel like of these three, that one is probably going to continue, but I feel like it's like a new sore spot opening up in the middle of the game industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, considering that's the one that kind of led us into a little tangent right now in terms of talking about it, it feels like it probably belongs as at least one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the fact that Claire Obscure had an award revoked from it over this, right? Like, seems, I think whether you think that's an overreaction or you think like in 5 years we'll look back and go, what the hell were they doing?
Right.
Like, everybody's using AI now. I think that is a chaotic story.
Yeah.
You don't see games get awards revoked from them, very often.
Right.
If ever, I can't remember, nominations we've had.
Sure.
How do you feel between those other two?
I think I mean, I think this is the part of me that I'm getting hung up on is similar to what we talked about with like disappointing game, where it's like, I don't know, there's something about like putting this person's death as the chaos news. I know that's not like what we mean, but I think there's part of me that can't necessarily separate those.
We maybe
those
should drop
things.
the chaos part
Yeah.
of this category and just
Or-
biggest news or most impactful.
change the category slightly. That's only focusing on all the shit shows that happen in the games industry.
I mean, we could make two separate categories
Sure.
out of this. Part of this is, again, that like trying to condense the number of categories so we don't end up with 50 a
Of
year.
course, yeah. I mean, part of me feels like I'm going to not really add one, but like that I would put actually above this was all the ice usage of video games as a real chaos
Oh,
news.
that's actually pretty good. Yeah. I mean,
Talk about shit shows.
yeah, like all the Master Chief
Yeah,
stuff.
the Halo stuff, the Pokemon
I have
stuff.
a feeling though that is going to continue, and that might be something
I-
we end up talking about again, just because of what happened.
Well,
Yeah.
they defiantly said, we're not going to stop. We're going
Yeah.
to keep doing this.
Yeah.
Can I propose that as our second one then? Our number 2?
I almost don't want to even acknowledge it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's so clearly shit posting.
Yep,
Like,
that's fair.
It doesn't feel like somebody. It doesn't feel like the Starship Troopers meme I showed you, where
Sure.
somebody clearly didn't understand the film.
Yeah, it's
Right.
they do, and they're exploiting it basically.
That,
I mean, I agree with you in one degree, but like,
no, I also completely understand. As like, let's acknowledge it and move past it. You know.
yeah, because fuck them.
Yeah. Yeah. Then, like I said, I might say the price hikes. Like I said, I think for the
I think
way
that has
I'm-
more wide-ranging impact.
I think it does as
That's
well.
what I was thinking. Yeah, the two that I had marked were the AI and the price hikes. Because again, like I know the first one is impactful, but it feels like every week we've been talking about the price hikes.
That or the other one that isn't on this list is just all the shit show that is Roblox.
Yeah.
But that might be
That's
another one
another
we
one I
don't really
don't want
want
to
to acknowledge.
acknowledge.
I mean, that one I feel a little bit more of like shining a light to
Yeah.
get the cockroaches out.
Yeah.
But
But if we want to stick with what was already on the list, I'd have generative AI at number 1 and price hikes at number 2.
I think the generative AI is going to be a story we're talking about over the next couple of years, at least.
Yep.
Whereas the price hikes probably will be this next year, but I don't know how long that's going to last.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your chaos news of the year is generative AI in games backlash with, I should reword that. And our runner up is the hardware price hikes. All right. On to our most stylish game of the year. And Mario, do you want to read these nominees?
Sure. So the nominees for most stylish game of the year are Blippo Plus, Dispatch, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, Nubby's Number Factory, South of Midnight, Luminous Arise, and No, I'm Not a Human.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I was
yeah.
like, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I thought that was what we were at. This was the
Yes.
category that we were adding to.
Yes, for sure. Because, yeah, I guess I just didn't. I knew that we had a category that was similar to this that I wanted to put it in, and I was thinking it was the aesthetic one.
I think that makes sense.
We always do this. We are always adding like
I think in the
things
most
to the
aesthetically
categories.
pleasing, we talked about style a ton anyways,
Yes,
which makes sense.
Yes. Which this one, again, I don't want to look at it. And the music is creepy, and it just has a very different vibe in night versus day. The different endings are just the way that it plays out. I don't see it necessarily taking this category, but it's just something I wanted to acknowledge just because it's been a while since I've seen a game that has given me the like visceral physical reaction.
sort
that
of
this one did.
heebie-jeebies.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think this category and what separates it from aesthetically pleasing, right? That is a game that is pleasing to look at while you're playing it. Whereas this game is all about, this game has a voice of its own. Like it sticks out. It's different, distinct from any other game we've played, right? And so even though this game is very much in the style of something like Papers, Please, there have been a lot of games that have copied that. And it sounds like this game is finding an ability through its voice to stand out and make it distinct from all those other imitators.
You really get into like the narrative of each person, and it fits so well what they're doing. Like one of the characters is the widow, and she comes up, she looks so tired, and she has like her dead husband on her back, and she's wanting to come inside. Yeah, it's creepy.
So, like, I mean, I think that's exactly what we mean by this category, because it's writing, it is, graphics, it is sound, it is all of that combining into a style of the game. So I think that stays for now. I don't think, even though I think it's fantastic, as I've mentioned multiple times before, Luminous Arise is very much in the vein of Tetris Effect. It is not doing something radically new or different. I think it deserves to be called out in this category because it is very stylish. It is a game that you play explicitly for that reason. But I think there are games that are doing something new and different that make them stand out more than it does, even though it's doing that very well. So we can cut Luminous.
I'd also be fine cutting Nubby's Number Factory here as well. I think that game is one that's just go look at it. It's so it is so clearly leaning into the things that I feel like it's a game that I would have played in our computer time when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of nails that vibe. It's weird and silly. But I don't know if I see it as being any higher than some of the others on here.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it does quite enough to make it, to do something like new and different that's going to make it stand out, right? Like it's very good as an homage to that, right?
Yeah.
So like it captures that style explicitly well. Which is maybe the same thing with Pipistrello. Like,
sure.
I don't know if you feel like it belongs on here or not.
Yeah, I mean, again, we don't necessarily have to add it because I'd be okay with cutting it, but it's one of those ones where it's like, I appreciate what they went for in the development of this. You had a vision and you leaned into that, rather than going with, well, this is what convention says we should do.
I'll mention one just to cut it off here because I don't think it's going to compete. Guns of Fury is a really cool Metroidvania that is in the style of the Metal Slug games. So it's like hand-drawn art. Everything is over-animated, and when you are going around shooting your guns, everything's exploding. Like the screen is full of explosions constantly. Barrels are exploding, things in the background like walls are crumbling. It just looks amazing to watch, and it so well captures those Metal Slug games, which so few games ever try to, and those games look amazing still to this day. And to see a modern game completely unrelated to that franchise copy the style of those games, I think it does it exceptionally well. And so I think it's a really cool game. I don't think it does more than graphically an homage. So like, that's why I would not include it. I think some of these go further when we talk about style of the games, but I do think it's worth mentioning with some of these. Blippo, I think is really cool. I think that game has really cool style. That game may be the most style dependent game on this list because it is all vibes. But I also think that's a game where the style of the game can completely not jive with you.
Sure.
And I think if it doesn't, you're going to, like, you could start that game, play 5 minutes or less, and be like, what the hell? What the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, that's admirable to be like, hey, we don't mind completely pissing off the audience. We're going to be true to ourselves. But in other ways, I think it makes it less competitive than some of these others on this list that I feel like have their style and like integrate that into a very pleasing experience for more people.
Right. I was thinking about like.
So are you cutting it?
Yeah, I think it can get cut on here.
I was thinking about Dispatch because, like, I really like the look of it. It kind of has that comic booky style. The vibe of it is, like, with all the music, like, we've already nominated the amazing karaoke number. I don't know if it's unique enough to compete with the rest of what we have on here. I don't know. That would be the question I pose there.
Yeah, I think Dispatch is a game. I think maybe we mentioned this off air, but like Aaron Paul, who voices the main character, also voices a character in the Invincible cartoon, and this is so in the style of that in a large manner. And so in some ways, you're like, okay, like my reaction to this game, seeing it originally was, okay, I get it. You're going for Invincible. Like, that's cool. Nobody's done that yet. They are making an Invincible game, that's a fighting game that's coming out this year, I think. But like, nobody has done this. And so like, there will be an audience for that. And then having actually played the game, I think it does it better than I was expecting. It's doing more with that than I was expecting. Like, I think I underestimated that game and what it was doing, and the way that, as we've talked about just among ourselves, like the voice acting, how good the voice acting is in that game, how much it sells huge parts of that game. I don't know if that game actually does better with a category. We're going to have a few categories down from here. But in some ways, I think maybe that game is more stylish than anything, because really it's a visual novel.
Yeah.
Like, the actual gameplay to that game, there's not much to it.
No, not at all.
I mean, it's
You're
kind
clicking.
of, yeah, I mean, a big part of that game is a mini game. The hacking game is just a little mini game. Yeah. And then the main, the other main part of the game, the actual dispatch part of the game, you're not really doing a lot with that. I mean, there's some strategy to it.
Dice rolls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a game that almost exists entirely on its style, because, most of it is visual novel, you choosing, here's 3 options, pick one.
I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about Shinobi?
Yeah, Shinobi's just a badass ninja. Like, you're making a new ninja game in this day and age. You're calling it Shinobi. Like, what is that going to look like? We've already talked about the aesthetically pleasing elements of the game. It looks amazing. I think that game also leans into the sort of G.I. Joe level of storytelling that makes it fit very well into the 80s, early 90s of the Shinobi heyday of those games. That game, the gameplay of it, what you're actually doing, the fighting in that game feels amazing. That's why it's a better game than Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, because it just feels better when you're playing it. It's more complex, and you are, you're cutting this guy's head off and everything, and you're like slashing through these 3 guys and then leaping over here, and then you're throwing a ninja star over and hitting this guy, and you're like, sort of juggling guys in the air and everything. And while you're playing that game, it just has a feel to it that elevates that game quite a bit. again, it may fit better a category a few down here. But that game has an amazing style to it. That had you told me they're making a new Shinobi game, I never would have anticipated it would have been as cool as this game turns out to be.
Then our last one in here is South of Midnight, which, as I talked about earlier, I think the best parts of South of Midnight are in its style, right? In thinking about the music throughout the game, the settings throughout the game. Though I guess world building and sort of like, I don't know if this necessarily fits style, but I'm going to say it does, in terms of like its usage of like deep South mythos and like hoodoo and Black American culture. Like I think that is where, that's what makes this game worth playing.
Yeah. The soundtrack is one of the best, probably. I mean, outside of like Clair Obscura.
Sure.
Right. But yeah.
But I'd put it up there with that. Like, it's a very different style of soundtrack.
Yes.
But I would certainly put it up there with it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Justin, would you, unless you are like strongly about Shinobi, considering it won our aesthetically pleasing and will probably, I assume, be a very strong contender in our later categories, can we have Dispatch and South of Midnight as our top two here?
No, I mean, that's where I was leaning with this. I think those two, I think those are the definition of style.
Okay.
Right? And I think it's easy to say, well, they're style over substance. They're not. These are two good games. I think probably South of Midnight a little bit more style over substance.
Yeah.
But I think those are games that if you strip out the style of the game, you don't have the game.
Agreed.
Like,
Sure.
Nobody's talking about them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we mean by best style,
Yeah.
to me at least.
And I think, to me, if you phrase it that way, South of Midnight edges out Dispatch a little bit, but I could also be convinced of the other way, because as long as these are our top two, I'm good with that.
I'm fine kind of either way with ever. I don't feel super strongly about one over the other.
I would be fine with South of Midnight taking this.
Cool.
Dispatch. All right. Our most stylish game of the year. The winner is South of Midnight with Dispatch as our runner-up. All right. Next is our adaptation of the year. So this is usually a game that got adapted into a movie or a television show, but like it could also be something that got adapted into a game. This is taking something from one medium and, adapting it into a different medium. So this can be really fun as a way to like look at some of this. Our nominations for this are a Minecraft movie, Until Dawn, Twisted Metal Season 2, and Fortnite The Simpsons.
All right, so what's going to be second here?
Yeah. I think that we should, I'm glad we talked about it, but I think we should take off Until Dawn, because I think...
Well, we haven't talked about it yet.
No, but I mean,
literally have not talked about it at all.
We mentioned it. I think we can cross it off. I'm glad that we have acknowledged it. I think that is a game that could be worth returning to, but the way that they went about it, just I don't know.
I will say, I think that film does something very smart. And how do you take a game that's all about making choices and they adapt it into a sort of Groundhog Day situation where you're like constantly like rebooting and reliving the same time period.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is a cool decision to make.
And so like you have this opportunity, right, for the characters to make different decisions. Oh, we did this last time. This person got killed. What do we do this time? Which is really, how do you adapt a video game into a film format? And I think that was a very clever decision. It's just every decision after that wasn't clever.
Exactly.
And it's not a good movie. And so I agree. It should get cut off this list.
I had not seen the Simpsons map. I didn't realize that they had a map in Fortnite. So I think that's really cool. I don't know. I didn't see Twisted Metal, so I don't know whether or not it was good.
Twisted Metal as a show feels like it feels like when they started making comic book movies that weren't ashamed to be based on comic books, and they were like, we're just going to put Captain America in a Captain America costume, and he's going to have the little wings painted on the side of his helmet and everything, because we're not actually ashamed of the fact that this is a comic book and people aren't going to laugh at it. And it feels like a video game where they're like, okay, fine, we'll just put a guy who's like suspended between two giant, tires, like running down the road and everything. And yes, that's stupid and makes no logical sense, but within our world, it's fine. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like in some ways it's the adaptation that is being slept on by video game fans because it's it's on Peacock and nobody watches Peacock as a streaming service. And
hey, they have traders right now, so I'm engaging with it.
And two, because, it's a television series. It's not a film, right? And so it's not getting the marketing and everything. But, like, I think it is doing something very interesting. And I think it's worth calling it out for that. The other one we haven't talked about, and Mario...
It's going to win, so there's no need to talk about it till... Yeah,
we'll let you talk about it, Mario. Would you like to talk about the Minecraft movie?
Yeah, future Oscar-winning film, a Minecraft movie. One of these made $1 billion. One of these launched a movement of the chicken jockey.
I mean, in fairness, you don't know that Fortnite The Simpsons did make $1 billion because it seems like Fortnite makes $1 billion once a week.
Yeah.
That's also fair, but it doesn't have chicken jockey in it.
I mean, that's the big seller. It also has apparently the one scene that made Mario
So good.
Laugh so hard.
Tears of laughter. You know that the crying laughing emoji? That was me in the theater.
It really kind of was. Like, he really lost it at that point.
Like, if we were watching that film privately and I didn't have to hold it in, it would have been, yeah.
Number one Minecraft movie.
Obviously.
I think maybe Fortnite The Simpsons
that's
as our runner-up.
Okay.
I think that...
I was going to let you at least fight me for it, but if you...
I
How
really
can you argue
don't
with
care.
Chicken Jockey?
You got to give the people what they want. And the people wanted chicken jockey.
I mean, look, people love that movie. I do not love that movie. But I will say, compared to most video game movies, compared to Borderlands, compared to a lot of these things that we have subjected ourselves to.
Was that this year? Was Borderlands this
Yes.
year or was that last year?
It didn't even make the
Oh,
list.
Jesus.
I think it was this year, wasn't it?
I don't
I
remember.
think so. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that movie is that forgettable. And I will say Minecraft is not that forgettable. At least it has Jack Black in it.
Yeah. It has its moments.
Jason Momoa?
It has its moments.
I think Jason Momoa is not as memorable in that film because
Yeah.
they're not letting him be his full Momoa-ness.
Oh, he's not shirtless throughout the whole thing.
I don't think he's shirtless at all.
Oh, what a waste. No, I'm just kidding.
I feel like if I said that about an actress, I'd be raked over the coals for it.
You probably would.
Deservedly so.
I mean,
I probably should. It was fine.
So
I mean,
I'd watch
Thor was good, but Natalie Portman wasn't shirtless throughout it.
It's fine. You want Jason Momoa shirtless? Tune into not Mortal Kombat.
Chris
Street Fighter.
Hemsworth was, however, shirtless throughout Thor.
I can take it or leave it.
Well, he's in the new Street Fighter film.
That's what I was trying to say.
Momoa?
Street Fighter. Yeah, watch that and you'll get to see him shirtless.
Okay, well, there we go.
Isn't he playing Blanca?
Yeah, I think so. It's either him or Roman Reigns that's playing Blanca.
Honestly, either way, that would be fun. Not because of the shirtless.
Sure.
No,
No, it's fine. It's too late.
Listen.
Right.
You already said it.
All right. Our adaptation of the year is a Minecraft movie with Fortnite The Simpsons taking our runner-up position.
It's the only award that matters, people.
Yeah.
Do we want to do best feel here? Do we feel like we have time and want to try to include that?
I think we're running a little tight, so
yeah.
we should probably wrap up here.
All right. So that means our final category of the year is Badass Game of the Year. And this category is self-explanatory. It is the game that either overwhelmed us or made us feel like the biggest badass while playing it. Christina, will you read the nominations?
Yeah. So the nominations for Badass Game of the Year are Doom, The Dark Ages, Shinobi, Art of Vengeance, Dispatch, Guns of Fury, and Sectori.
So I think Doom is the only game we haven't even mentioned yet up to this point. Doom, The Dark Ages, they basically made a Hexen sequel, but made it Doom. It is a continuation of the last two Doom games, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. But they have completely redone all the weapons and everything, redone all the graphics to make it fit into this sort of cyber medieval sort of aesthetic of the game. That game just constantly looks cool. It encourages you to get up close for a first-person shooter, and encourages you to engage in melee combat. So you have a shield that basically is a chainsaw shield, and you can like push it into enemies and like basically kill them with your shield. You can also like throw the chainsaw shield into enemies from a distance. At points in that game, you jump onto the back of a dragon and are fighting enemies in the air. At points, you get into essentially a giant robot suit, and you're fighting kaiju in the game. And so these bridges that you were running across earlier, now you see enemies that you were fighting, and they're like tiny, and you're like stepping on the bridge and crushing them as you're fighting through these levels. That game feels very much like a heavy metal album come to life, which is, sort of
like the definition of badass.
It really is. It's like, it very much fits this category extremely well. So I think that's a strong contender when we look at this. The other one we haven't talked as much about, Sectori, is a dual stick shooter, very much in the vein of the Geometry War games. It is doing more than Geometry Wars. The environment around you is constantly shifting. There are bosses within the game. The bosses are pretty overwhelming. So like they're bosses that take up basically the entire space, and you are constantly trying to avoid both touching the boss, but also the bullet hell that the bosses are shooting. That is just a super cool game. It has a really cool soundtrack. Earlier, I kind of talked about it. You enter that sort of fugue state while you're playing it, trying to sort of lose yourself mentally in the game and just reacting entirely on reflex. And I think it does an exceptionally good job of that. And it just feels really cool while you're playing it. That's an amazing game. I don't know if it holds. I think some of these others more kind of achieve the badass label, where that's just like a super cool game. So I think Sectori probably doesn't make it. I think Guns of Fury probably also doesn't make it, even though, like I said, I think it looks amazing. I think the fact that you are blowing stuff up, you are constantly getting more and more over the top weapons. You are getting like going from machine guns or pistols to machine guns to shotguns to rocket launchers, and it looks really cool. It doesn't really have the same attitude, though it does have moments where they're kicking guys into vats of lava, which is kind of badass, but it doesn't have the same attitude as some of these others, so it probably also does not make this list.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the other one, granted I haven't played the other two, but I would probably say that our top two here should be Doom and Shinobi.
That's what I was thinking, just because like Dispatch, you don't necessarily, like you get to push the buttons, but it doesn't feel like the most badass scene is the karaoke scene where that song is playing and like everybody's like getting into a fight, but it's not necessarily. I don't know if it's the same as like actually doing the combat or just like pushing the buttons and choosing.
I think
things.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like there's a distance, like they're badasses.
Yes.
Whereas in Doom, I feel like I'm the badass
Yes.
that's doing all the
Yes,
things. And I
that's-
feel like it's probably similar in Shinobi as well.
Yeah,
So that's where I'd be okay cutting dispatch.
agreed.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's abstracted, and even within the game itself, it's abstracted because you're Robert sitting at a desk,
Yeah.
commanding them through a computer monitor in the game. So, like, you're like at least 2 levels abstracted from the badassery
I think
in most of the game.
The most badass thing you do is if you choose to throw the vodka on flambe instead of the water in the beginning and set him ablaze.
Which I definitely did.
Oh, yeah. Well, I looked at that because, it has the percentage of people who chose this, and it was like at least 70% people chose to do the vodka.
I chose the water.
Oh,
wow.
Well, let me tell you, he like, poof, it's great. It's so good.
It's great when his eyebrows are singed off. That's one of the most this is a sidetrack, but that's one of the most disappointing parts of that game is how difficult it is to go back and replay different choices. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, on the next podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Shinobi and Doom. I think
I don't know, a chainsaw. It's like chainsaw shield versus surfing on a missile.
Yeah, I feel like there's no wrong choice here. I didn't play either of them, so I will default to you, Justin, but I don't think there's a wrong choice from these two.
I think Shinobi is the better game, but I think Doom might be the more honest representation of this category.
I think that's fair.
Right.
Because I assume if the soundtrack is similar to the previous 2 Doom soundtracks, it probably fuels that feeling as well.
And again, if you describe something as like a metal, like the cover of a metal album come to life, like that is the definition of badass, I think.
Yeah. All right. This is our badass game of the year is Doom the Dark Ages with runner-up Shinobi Art of Vengeance. All right. That does it for our category awards. We will be back with an additional game of the year category where we will rank our top 10 games of the year. So we'll have a chance to talk more about some of these games and some games that didn't even appear on this list, remarkably. So we'll talk about that. Please tune into that. And again, as noted at the top of the show, check out SalukiGames.com because we'll have those Game of the Year lists. Those are always fun to read through, and you will be exposed to games that we didn't play and that we have not had a chance to talk about. I've already read several of those lists, and there's some fun picks on there. But that does it for this episode. Thank you to Christina and to Mario. Thank you to the spirit of OJ for our chaos. And we will be back soon with another episode. Take care, and don't take Claire Obscure. Play it. And you'll have a fun time. See you later.